Imagine you're the most powerful person in the world, no one can even come close to challenging you. But one day, you find out you have a whole bunch of wives and kids. And the crazy part? You have no idea how they even got there. So, what's your reaction gonna be? Well, today, we're diving into a story just like this. So, let's get started. So, after 500 years, we kick things off at the holy capital. Everyone's out in the streets, cheering for their leader. This guy steps out and says something like, "Man, if I had been around back then, there wouldn't have been any war." Time flies, and now, 500 years later, the world's starting to change big time. Because of all this, everyone's getting these rad divine powers. We're talking about a 500-year war, known as the Epic of Apocalypse. Our dude, Ling Yunfeng, went through all sorts of wild adventures and uncertainties. He's become super powerful, like a supreme saint with unmatched strength. He's crushed all the opposing forces in one go, and now the world's finally at peace. So, Yunfeng's chillin' on his throne, soaking up the calm after all the chaos. He told everyone to leave him alone while he was taking a break. But then, his disciple shows up, totally interrupting his zen moment, with a secret letter from the head of the Taoist sect, written on a Yin talisman. Yunfeng's like, "Why is this self-important lady who never asks for help sending me a secret letter?" He takes the letter, tells the disciple to scram, and starts reading it. Suddenly, he's hit with flashbacks from 15 years ago. Back then, he was practicing this intense heart method at a secret cold pool. Just when he was at a crucial point, a woman he thought was super rude barges in, jumps into the pool, and hugs him. Turns out, she was being chased by 3 ninjas trying to finish her. When the ninjas saw them together, they decided to finish them both. But before they could strike, Yunfeng takes them out and rescues her. He lays her on the ground and tries to control the wild energy inside him. While he's focused on getting everything in balance, the woman suddenly jumps on his back and starts caressing him. Yunfeng's super uncomfortable and tries to get her off, but he can't move without losing all the energy he'd built up. He yells at her to back off, but she's like, "Let me borrow your body to detoxify." Before he can even respond, she kisses him on the mouth. Yunfeng's totally shocked because nothing like this had ever happened to him before. Right after she finished using him for her detox process, she got herself cleaned up while Yunfeng was still lying there on the floor. Before she left, she looked back and told Yunfeng that if he ever got into trouble, he should just say her name, Qin Fenzu, and she'd repay him for the help. Yunfeng couldn't believe it, wondering if this was one of those legendary tales where his innocence was just brushed away like nothing. Fast forward to today, Yunfeng still finds that memory super embarrassing. Imagine a hero like him being used as a detox tool. Later on, during a big showdown where various sects were teaming up to take down the demonic sect, Yunfeng ran into Qin Fenzu again. But she acted like it was their first meeting. He asked her why she seemed so familiar, and she shyly said that maybe it was because she had always been blind to men. What really bugged Yunfeng was that she kept treating him like a total stranger, even after that. Everyone else was cool with him, but she was different. She did have this gutsy vibe, though, not afraid to stand up to anyone. She also seemed to get that whole idea of sacrificing yourself for peace. So, Yunfeng opens this letter, and it's from Qin Fenzu, asking him to meet her at midnight at the mountain peak of the Taoist sect. She says they need to discuss something important, and he has to come. Yunfeng's wondering what could be so urgent that she'd use the in-contact talisman, especially since most of the demonic beings have been taken care of. When Yunfeng gets to the peak, he notices it looks a lot like the place from his embarrassing memory. He's thinking, "No way am I choosing a place with these kinds of memories." Just as he's about to go into the temple to wait for her, Qin Fenzu shows up from behind, saying he's early. Yunfeng's intrigued that the head of the Taoist sect would use the in-contact talisman. She's dressed in a white dress with beads on her feet but no shoes. They sit down, and Qin Fenzu uses magic to brew some tea out of thin air. It's called the Hong Pao, from 500 years ago. She hands the tea to Yunfeng, and he's dying to know why she called him there. So, he asks what kind of trouble she's in. She's sipping her tea and casually says she called him to talk about their son. Yunfeng, not really paying attention, responds nonchalantly, asking if there's something wrong with their son. But then it hits him what she just said, and he spits his tea out, yelling and asking her what she's talking about. When did they have a son together? He's racking his brain, thinking about all his past battles and how he's never had any close relationships. Where did this son come from? He's going over all the possibilities in his head until he lands on a thought, and she confirms it. So, it turns out, it was when she used his body for detoxification. Yunfeng is like, oh, so she finally admits it. All those times they fought together, she acted like nothing ever happened between them, making him feel like he was losing his mind. Qin Fenzu tells him to chill since it's not his fault, but he starts yelling, reminding her how he helped detox her body and she didn't even have the decency to thank him. Qin Fenzu gets mad and starts yelling back, saying he should shout louder so the whole Taoist sect can hear what happened. Yunfeng quickly covers his mouth, looking around to make sure no one's eavesdropping. She keeps telling him not to stress since it's not his fault, and he finally agrees, saying it's her fault. She starts to explain she never thought about who was responsible all this time, but Yunfeng cuts her off, saying he needs to calm down first and then he'll listen. After downing a dozen cups of tea, Yunfeng suggests they should get married since that was her wish. Qin Fenzu is totally shocked and asks him to repeat himself. Yunfeng thinks the reason she's telling him about their son is because she wants to get married, so he magically makes a ring out of a piece of wood and hands it to her. She's shocked, thinking he totally misunderstood her intentions. Yunfang says that even though they don't have any affection for each other, they should get married since they have a child together. He asks her to pick an auspicious date for the wedding. Qin Fenzu politely declines the ring, saying she has no intention of marrying him even if they had a son together. Yunfang is confused and asks why she told him about their son if she didn't want to get married. She starts talking in short sentences, then stands up and walks seductively towards him. She leans in and whispers something in his ear, putting them in an embarrassing position. Yunfang, shocked by what she whispered, yells out, and they both turn away, unable to look at each other. Yunfang coughs lightly and says he'll think about it and give her an answer in a few days. Just as he's leaving the temple, Qin Fenzu, standing behind him, asks him to wait. Yunfang stops and asks what's up. She then asks if it ever occurred to him that she might be lying when she said it was about their son. It took a few seconds for him to process her question. When he finally responded, Yunfang said that the first time he met her, he thought she was kind of arrogant and rude. As he was talking, she gripped the table so hard it cracked, but Yunfang had more to say. He added that after all their battles together, he actually admired her and sometimes even thought about becoming sworn siblings with her. At that point, she threw a cup at him, yelling that no one cared about being siblings and demanding a straight answer. Yunfang didn't have much else to say other than they'd talk again in a few days. He left, and Qin Fenzu stayed at the temple. On his way home, his heart started racing, and he couldn't calm down. He realized he needed to spar with someone to clear his mind. So, Yunfang flew up into the sky, heading straight for the diabolic sect. He reached the celestial pavilion in no time. As he landed at the entrance, the guards tried to sound the alarm, but he was too quick. He told them the alarm was too slow, but they ignored him and kept yelling that the Supreme Saint was there. Finally, a girl flew towards Yunfang and touched his chest. He said there was progress because not many cultivators could strike him twice successfully. She asked why he was there causing trouble, and he explained that he was just looking for a fight because he was upset. The girl said it was cool and that they could fight. They started fighting, and it went on for a while. People on the ground watched, wondering if he was there to destroy them. After the fight, Yunfang felt satisfied. They stopped and went down to have some beers and chat. While drinking, some beer spilled all over the girl's body and face, and she wiped her face with the back of her hand. She then told Yunfeng that if he was ever having trouble, he could come to her to vent his frustrations by sparring. Yunfeng and the lady had a long chat, and it seemed like they were really enjoying each other's company. Chagrin started bugging Yunfeng to tell her what had made him so mad that he needed to fight so badly. Yunfeng eventually told her that he suddenly found out he had a son, and the mother was Qin Fengsu. As soon as Chagrin heard that, she spat out the drink in her mouth all over Yunfeng's face. This seemed to be a thing with these people. She quickly apologized, covering her mouth in a funny way. Yunfeng got up and started explaining what happened, getting all defensive, waving his hands around as he talked. Just then, a little girl appeared out of nowhere, yelling at Yunfeng. He stopped mid-sentence to watch her. She was dressed all in black, with black shoes and short black hair. When she got up to him, she started hitting him and calling him a bastard. Yunfeng didn't even flinch. He just kept poking her head with his finger, mocking her. Yunfeng wondered how Chagrin had a child in the diabolic sect, where blood ties weren't exactly welcome. Just as he was asking Chagrin how it was possible, the little girl stabbed him with a fire fairy thorn. It was stopped by an invisible shield covering Yunfeng's body. He lifted her up and took the fire fairy thorn from her, saying she could hurt herself if she wasn't careful. But thorns came out of the handle, piercing his hand. Yunfeng shouted angrily, but the girl threw a round pill into his mouth. Yunfeng thought it was poison and said he was immune, but it was a bitter wu-wei pill, which made his stomach churn. The girl ran to her mother's side, taunting Yunfeng. Chagrin explained that the little girl liked scavenging from the elders and played with things discarded by others. Yunfeng was angry because the girl was playing with weapons, which weren't toys. He kept yelling about how bitter the pill was, quickly grabbing 2 cans of beer and chugging them to get rid of the taste. After he finished the beer, he asked who the father of the girl was, so he could teach him a lesson for not teaching her manners. As he continued drinking his beer, Chagrin told him that he was the father. This made Yunfeng spit his beer out in her face. Chagrin patted her daughter's head and used magic to transport the girl away, saying she would explain how the daughter came to be. Yunfeng, feeling a bit drunk, thought he was seeing pink elephants. Chagrin told him to drink a little more to sober up, so he downed several more bottles of beer. When he was done, he asked again who the father of the child was. Chagrin calmly replied that he was the father. Yunfeng was furious and started yelling at her again, but she stayed calm and listened to everything he had to say. Yunfeng, looking a bit confused, said he couldn't remember ever doing anything with her, unlike Karen. The lady sighed and told him that, yeah, it's true he might not remember. She explained that about 10 years ago, right after he reached godhood and was slaying many of the diabolic sect's masters, an alliance was formed against him. He got captured and almost finished in the infernal prison. Yunfeng wasn't really buying her story. She stood up, pointed at him, and said he was incredibly lucky to have survived. He told her that she was the only one in the world cocky enough to talk to him like that. They were getting a bit off topic, so Yunfeng reminded her to stay on track. She continued, saying that she was practicing the Nether Moon Heart Soul technique at the time. Yunfeng acknowledged that he knew about that technique. It's a unique skill of the diabolic sect that can combine all known techniques into one, making it fiercer and stronger than the Northern Imperial technique recorded in the ancient scriptures. This technique had made their sect produce countless peerless demons but also made them a target, leading to a decline in their population. She mentioned trying to evenly distribute her powers, so she spread it throughout the entirety of Huaxia Shinzu in one fell swoop. The old dogs who captured Yunfeng had formed an alliance and plotted against her aggressively. Yunfeng got mad, crushing the beer can in his hand until it turned into a little gem. He said he wanted to finish all those who imprisoned him and caused him humiliation, asking Chagrin where they were hiding so he could vent his anger. Chagrin told him to calm down, explaining that he wouldn't be angry if he saw them now because they had repented. Yunfeng turned to look at her, asking what they were doing now. She told him about demon Saint Kaiyan Shu, who had been subdued by him and then entered seclusion for 10 days, eventually following the great Daou. Another one was in a mental asylum. Yunfeng, feeling a bit conflicted, said he couldn't bring himself to attack them again since he had a conscience. Chagrin kept talking about the men who had subdued him earlier in his life. Yunfeng finally told her to stop with the stories and get to the point. She said the elders had teamed up and given her the strongest aphrodisiac in the world, but she didn't give in and escaped, barely surviving. She explained that with all the aphrodisiac in her veins, she couldn't escape forever, so she teleported herself to where he was imprisoned. Yunfeng, shaking chagrin to make his point, asked why she chose him when they were polar opposites, like good and evil, water and fire. She said it was because he was handsome. Yunfeng didn't believe her and demanded the truth, pointing out that if he accepted her story, then Kaiyan Shu must also be handsome in both good and evil ways and had a great temperament. He felt like she was playing a prank on him. Chagrin commended him for being self-aware and deliberate, then began telling him the full truth and some things he didn't know about. Yunfeng said he'd still consider her his brother in his head, which convinced him to believe her story. After saying what he had to say, he brought out the gem he forged from the beer can and held her hand, causing her to have flashbacks of the time he was subdued in the dungeon. After a moment, he forged a ring and gave it to her, suggesting they should get married. She takes the ring, saying it's beautiful, but she turns down his marriage proposal and asks for forgiveness. Yunfeng is confused and asks her what she means by that. She replies that she literally means no to his proposal. Yunfeng gets furious and asks if she and Karen had planned this, rejecting his proposals so easily without even considering them. She then asks why Karen rejected his proposal. He explains that Karen fears that if their child is known as the child of the Supreme Saint, he would be isolated and targeted by his enemies, which isn't good for the kid. The lady agrees, saying Karen's reasons are valid and that Yunfeng still has many battles to fight. Having a child would be a huge risk for him. She lists out all the battles he's fought and the foes he's faced. Yunfeng then asks if his daughter would be safe in the diabolic sect, considering all the murderous criminals there. The lady assures him not to worry, saying his daughter is known as the Little Devil Star of the Celestial Pavilion and is even feared by the old guards. She's cunning even at a young age, so he shouldn't worry about her future. The lady then asks why Yunfeng isn't worried about her. He reflects on the ideals she fought for initially. She shares that after having their daughter Linglong, she felt motivated to change her way of life. Yunfeng grabs his chest dramatically, saying that suddenly having a child with two of the most unlikely people is too much for his heart to handle. The lady laughs at him mockingly and tells him to adapt quickly because Hukek-sun also gave birth to a daughter for him. Yunfeng, shocked by the news, screams and flies away at top speed. While flying, he thinks it's impossible since he only met Hukek-sun once while trying to forge a diplomatic alliance with the Conlan sect in the southwest of the land of Great Yu. His memories of that time are perfectly clear, nothing inappropriate happened. He wonders if it could have been 12 years ago when Shenzhou was still in turmoil with 5 dragons fighting for the pearl. The great Rakshasa kingdom in the west wanted to expand and conquer the eastern lands. The first step was to send the 5th prince by as an envoy under the pretext of reconciliation between the great Rakshasa king Taiyong and the 9-tailed demon fox king, Hukek-sun, in the southwestern gateway of Shenzhuxia mainland. The kingdom of 10,000 demons had become a vassal, and Yunfeng was entrusted as the envoy from Shenzhou Huaxia mainland to go to Daiyukaman alone. That day, he cut off the prince's head, causing the world to tremble. The king asked Yunfeng why he finished the 5th prince, emphasizing the importance of reputation. Considering the reaction of the Rakshasa kingdom, he wondered if they would attack the habitats of small and large demon groups with their army. Yunfeng told him the king sent the 5th prince as an envoy not to fight but to exert authority. If the envoy is finished, the Rakshasa army won't retaliate immediately. The king clapped, acknowledging Yunfeng's martial prowess and wisdom. However, he worried that the Rakshasa army might use this as an excuse to intimidate him, forcing him to surrender his turf and wait for the right moment to launch incursions into Shenzhou mainland. Yunfeng assured the king that Rakshasa couldn't survive a 10-year war, and if they sent envoys again, he would bring them to their knees. Then, Yunfeng tossed his sword into the 5th prince's head. The king asked Yunfeng if he wanted to control people through fear, pointing out that if he did, he was no different from the Rakshasa kingdom. Just as the king was speaking, a woman emerged from behind a curtain, walking slowly towards him. It seemed like the king was addressing the woman, who was dressed in a gown with a long crown on her head. The king approached Yunfang and told him the only way to achieve peace was to vassalize, give sanctions, offer a truce, or friendship. The king then asked Yunfang which option he preferred. Yunfang replied that he wanted friendship, causing the king to burst into gentle laughter. Yunfang looked at her, puzzled, and asked why she was laughing and what was so funny. She told him to wait as she needed to calm down before speaking to him. After a few moments of laughter, she composed herself, placed her hand on the sword that stood between them, and explained that she didn't expect him to say that. She then asked him to stay and give her some guidance. She used some sort of magic on him, and Yunfang realized he didn't remember what happened next. All he recalled was going home the next day, feeling that although reasoning, predicting, and contemplating weren't his strong suits, he still excelled at what he did. Determined to get the truth from the sly fox, he flew off quickly, distressed that he had completely forgotten the purpose of his trip. At the Daguko main hall, the remarkable MSA of the Great Rakshasa Kingdom had arrived. Yunfang stayed in a corner of the hall, observing the activities from afar. He realized they were discussing foreign affairs that day. Pacing back and forth, he debated whether he should confront the evil fox demon directly and ask her why she had concealed herself. Just as he was pacing, someone called out to him, "Father," and asked what he was doing there. He replied that he had come to stir up trouble for the evil demoness, Hukek-sun. The girl asked why he was being rude to her mother. He kept responding to the voice without paying full attention to what was going on. It later dawned on him that he had been speaking to someone whose face he hadn't seen, and they were calling him Daddy. He turned around, asking who was hiding and calling him Daddy. A little girl walked out from the back, holding a doll in her hand, and responded that it was her. He kept answering without paying much attention, but this time, when he realized the child was calling him father, he started to sweat profusely, and his heart began racing. He then screamed, asking himself if he was the one being called father, causing the guards to think a foreign enemy was attacking. Knowing that waging war with an allied kingdom was forbidden, Yunfang used his power to perform a reversal of heaven and earth. As one of the top 10 cultivators, he could backtrack time to the state it was 30 seconds ago. This cultivation technique had defeated countless strong opponents, and now he used it in this situation. The reversal took him back to 30 seconds before he unintentionally alerted the guards to the moment when the little girl first called him father. He then told her she couldn't just refer to anyone as her father and asked who her parents were. She replied that her mother was the evil demoness he mentioned and that he was her father. He asks her if she's sure and screams again, making the guards come running toward him. Knowing he's not allowed to wage war with an allied kingdom, he uses the reversal of heaven and earth again. After the last reversal, he's panting so hard that he falls to the ground, holding his chest. He says it's too sudden and almost messed up his heart, wondering what he should do since he's never quarreled with a child before. Feeling awkward, he stands up, still sweating, and asks the girl if her mother really told her he was her father. The little girl responds happily that her mother did tell her that, and she's been waiting for him for 12 years, ever since she was born. She shows him her doll, telling him she saw a shooting star the day before and wished her father would come down from the sky like a hero, and now it looked like her wish had unexpectedly come true. Yunfang realizes she's telling the truth, and it looks like a tear is about to fall from his eye. Faced with the innocence displayed by the child who longed for her father, he feels extreme guilt and blames himself. He apologizes to the girl for coming so late and asks her to hug him, but she tells him to save her and her mother instead. He looks at her in shock, not understanding what she's saying, and asks what's wrong. She tells him that the Rakshasa kingdom asked her mother for tribute and issued a document regarding her betrayal, demanding that she marry their third prince. Yunfeng gets angry that the Rakshasa kingdom would be so heartless and proposes such a thing after so many years. He's also furious that they would ask for his daughter's hand in marriage and tells his daughter to come along with him. She looks up at him and asks what he wants to do. He responds that he's willing to stand up for her and teach those vicious Rakshasa dogs an unforgettable lesson. His daughter runs to hug him, saying he's surely a very reliable father. He isn't used to being praised by a child, and as she hugs him, he starts grinning uncontrollably. He lifts her up and tells her to hold on tight, and she agrees. He carries her, and they fly away. At the Great Hall, someone is speaking to Hukek-sun, asking if she has made arrangements for the marriage of the Rakshasa's prince and her daughter, the princess of Daou. The king replies that her daughter is still too young to marry and that they should wait for the right time. The envoy tells her they won't get married immediately but that her daughter will come and live in the Rakshasa kingdom, receive her education, and get close to the prince before having a grand wedding later. The king says she'll be sad if her only daughter is far away from her. The envoy says the king has considered that and has sent a teacher to accompany her. But the king says there are competent people in her kingdom, so there's no need. The envoy asks if she's sure and tells her he's the first disciple of the great Rakshasa's state master, known as the Dark Master, who governs life and death, Saint Andrew Jelen, the Death Reaper. The teacher says the Dark Master has never accepted a disciple before, but because the princess is talented, she can inherit his mantle. The envoy tells the king that the Rakshasa kingdom is sincere and asks if she will refuse their king's great kindness. The queen says that acknowledging a teacher is a big deal and that she would have to think about it. Just as she finished her statement, a voice from behind yells that there's no need to think about anything because she already has a teacher. They all turn to the direction of the voice, and Yunfang was coming in, holding the little girl by his side. The queen stood up from her seat and said to Yunfang, "Who are you to shrug off formalities and barge into the halls of my great kingdom without prior notice?" As she was talking, she kept walking towards Yunfang and her daughter. Once she got to where they were both standing, she did a little bow and said she had seen the Supreme Saint, and asked why they hadn't informed her that they were coming. Immediately, the two other people heard that the person who just came in was the Supreme Saint, and they were shocked. The envoy turned to his master, who was standing beside him, and started asking what they should do now because rumors had it that the Supreme Saint had conquered all of Shenhuxia and was practically unmatched. The master said to the envoy that Shenhuxia was still in recovery. Then he started thinking, how was it possible that he managed all those things but was suddenly able to accept a student? He also started thinking it was possibly a trick for him to refuse taking the princess as his student. The envoy agreed with his narrative of what was going on. The queen continued to speak loudly so the other people could hear what she was saying and to instill some sort of fear in them. After she finished talking, Yunfang looked confused to some extent. Then the little girl ran to her mother and hugged her. The mother bent down and held her daughter, but asked her why she had brought Yunfang to the kingdom. Yunfang walked past them a little and said something so softly that only she could hear. The queen replied to him, saying that the envoys were still doubtful that he was the Supreme Saint himself. The Dark Master turned to face them and started to speak. He said, the Supreme Saint, the #1 individual in Shenhuxia, wanted to accept a student. Nevertheless, it was bothersome for him and the envoy to ignore the fact that it looked like the person they called the Supreme Saint was an imposter. He also said that if it was true, there would be great consequences for the imposter. As he finished his statement, he said again that he wanted to test this person to see if they were really the Supreme Saint. The little girl, standing beside her mother, said that the old dog was as cunning as they were because no offense would be done to either the winning or the losing side. Just as the little girl was speaking to her mother, the old fog started exuding some sort of green fume, and a little black liquid came out from his finger. When it dropped on the floor, some sort of circle with triangles appeared, and he was standing in it. Just as he was in the circle, his form changed into a skeleton holding a long staff that looked like a weapon. When this happened, the other people were standing and watching him. The queen said that the seance was bringing forth the gods of the world's law. The envoy who was with the Dark Master responded to her, saying there were only a handful of great masters in the world who could be recognized by the gods and bestowed the power of laws. He added that the god of death, who governs the law of life and death, was also a fearsome existence among the other gods. The Dark Master said to them that it wasn't that baffling and that he also implored this holy venerable to enlighten them. The little girl started shivering after the Dark Master revealed his powers, and she complained that it was strange because it became so cold and she was shivering. After she complained, Yunfang placed his hand on her head and did some magic that made her warm and created a shield for her. After Yunfang did his magic and pulled his hand away from the little girl's head, he asked if she felt better. She said she did and that she wasn't cold anymore. The Dark Master was totally stunned by what Yunfang did, so he charged at him. But instead of fighting back right away, Yunfang just turned his back and started asking about this seance thing and if the Dark Master had ever heard of the Eastern mystic technique called the art of apotheosis. The moment he mentioned it, Yunfang started glowing with this intense, bright energy, and it totally blew the Dark Master and his envoy away. His shadow, which was huge and shining super brightly, began to look like the incarnation of a god. When the Supreme Saint's shadow declared itself as God, the Dark Master and his envoy were in total disbelief. The Supreme Saint's shadow completely overpowered the Dark Master's shadow, and Yunfang told them to let their people know that, no matter how new the Du Kingdom was, they should stay out of Shenzhou and not interfere as long as he or even his shadow was around. At this point, the Dark Master and his envoy were totally beaten and stripped of their clothes, shivering with fear. They were so scared, they begged for forgiveness, but they were still tossed out of the kingdom. They kept pleading to be let back in, but it was too late. The fog around Yunfang cleared up, and he was seen standing in the middle of the hall. The little girl was jumping up and down, screaming with joy. She told her mom that she had finally found her dad and pointed at Yunfang, asking if he was really her father. The queen, her mom, bent down and confirmed that yes, he was. The little girl was over the moon, thrilled that she finally found her dad and that he was there to protect her. She was bouncing around, super excited, and shouting with joy. Then she ran over to her mom and said that if her dad was good looking, he was just kinda average, and if he was simple-minded, he was still way more impressive than most guys. The little girl was whispering all this to her mom, and when she asked how the queen mother picked someone like that, Yunfang felt totally left out and yelled at them, wanting to know what was going on. The queen mother replied to her daughter that it was just one of those things where two people came together at the perfect time and place with the right people. The little girl didn't fully get it, but she kinda understood. Yunfang, though, was still feeling excluded because it seemed like they were speaking a whole different language. He shouted again, saying they shouldn't act like he wasn't there and demanded to know what was happening. The queen just looked at him blankly and said she didn't feel sorry for him at all. She went on to say that her skirt was the only one made from heavenly silkworm silk and it got ruined because of his power. She told him he had no choice but to come with her to her chambers so she could change. Yunfang was totally baffled, but before he could say anything, she grabbed his arm and started pulling him toward her room. The little girl shouted from behind for them to wait for her. Once they got to the bedroom, Yunfang stood behind a transparent curtain while the queen was changing. He looked really uncomfortable, so when she started taking off her clothes, he turned his back to her. The little girl, standing behind him, asked why he wasn't looking at her mom and if she wasn't pretty enough for him. Yunfang was totally taken aback by the little girl's question. He immediately scolded her, wondering what was going through her mind at such a young age. He explained that what he was doing was showing respect. Then he told her that all the guys outside were totally checking out her mom, which meant her mom was really charming. He asked the little girl what her mom had taught her. The little girl, lounging on a bed, said her mom always told her to use her charm to win over anyone and that softness could beat out brute strength. She also mentioned her mom taught her to balance carrot and stick tactics if she wanted to stand her ground. Her mom, still behind them, chimed in and asked Yunfang if he agreed that her daughter was pretty sharp. Yunfang just coughed and asked how she could teach a kid like that. The queen replied that her daughter was a quick learner and that even the big, fierce lions and tigers were becoming submissive under her lead. Yunfang was done with the queen's rambling and demanded to know what was really going on. The little girl explained that she'd gone through the Foreign Affairs Directory of the Daou Kingdom, listing out people from over 10 years ago. She had crossed off names one by one and figured there were only a few possibilities for her dad. When Yunfang showed up at the gate, she decided to let him be her rescuer, using the classic lines her mom taught her. After hearing this, Yunfang realized she was after some quality education, edutainment, and fun. The queen explained that, as the future heir, it was crucial for her to navigate through powerful figures. It was a key skill for any ruler to protect themselves and their people in the future. So, the little girl and her mom were just standing there, staring at Yunfang. Yunfang was totally lost, trying to wrap his head around what they were talking about and what the girl had said. He finally told the little girl, "You know, you shouldn't have to be all Princess Y and serious. You should just be a happy kid." Both the queen and the little girl looked at him like he'd sprouted a second head. The queen was like, "The world's still messed up, and the royal fam has to deal with it first." Yunfang was getting really ticked off. He was like, "I want peace not just for the kingdom but for everyone to be happy and chill. I just want my kid to have a normal, carefree life." As they were chatting, the little girl was soaking up everything Yunfang said. She piped up, saying she hated being a princess because she couldn't enjoy the good stuff like food, thanks to all the etiquette and royal duties she had to learn. The queen flopped onto her bed, and said Yunfang had said the same stuff 12 years ago, and people thought he was just a dumb kid with wild ideas. But now, she was actually looking forward to seeing if it all came true. Yunfang was still listening but was like, "Wait, what did you do to me that made me forget everything that happened that day?" The little girl asked her mom what kind of charm she'd used on him. The queen turned to her and was all proud, saying, "Well, I'm so glad you figured it out. It was a charm, not a spell." Yunfang was even more confused and asked what they meant by charm. The queen explained that their kingdom had been built over hundreds of years not just through tricks but also through a solid legacy. She explained that the whole point was to start with friendship and strength, and then go from there with some solid background and power. Most of the targets were super sharp, like incredibly smart and well-connected people, or had all sorts of complicated relationships. The little girl chimed in, saying she was a nine-tailed fox, born with a killer look and charm, but the real magic was her ability to totally mesmerize someone's soul. She went on to explain that this innate talent could charm anyone and could only be used once in a lifetime. After someone's been charmed, they're pretty much under your control. The little girl then asked her mom why she chose Yunfang, especially when 10 years ago he was powerful but not exactly top tier. Yunfang, feeling a bit frustrated, asked why she'd picked him, just as his daughter had. The queen said she was drawn to his honesty and bravery back then and chuckled with a bit of a mischievous grin. Feeling wiped out from the day's craziness, Yunfang sat down and told them both that they were pretty dangerous. The queen, looking puzzled, asked if he was talking about other women besides herself and the little girl. She told him to spill it quickly. The little girl was all ears too, wanting to hear her dad's story. When Yunfang shared his tale, the little girl got super excited and said if they weren't going to marry her dad, then how about her mom and him get hitched first? The queen and Yunfang exchanged looks, and she said no way, marrying him wasn't an option. The little girl got bummed out and asked why. Her mom explained that a marriage between two rulers was a big deal. It wasn't just about the couple, it was like merging two kingdoms into one. Yunfang told the little girl that the folks over in Huaxia's capital would never let it slide and it might spark a full-on civil war in the Daou kingdom. Her mom backed this up, saying the supreme saint couldn't just join the Daou kingdom since the Shenzhou capital was super fresh. She said the saint was like their anchor right now, and they were kinda stuck. The little girl started crying, burying her head in her lap. She said she finally found her dad but they still wouldn't let her have him. She told them she hated them and bolted out of the room, running fast. Yunfang tried calling after her, but she didn't stop. When he went to chase her, the queen grabbed his arm and shook her head, telling him to let her go. Yunfang turned around, asking why she stopped him. She said what just happened was something everyone in the royal family has to deal with. The little girl had gone through it, and so had her mom. But, she said, at least she got to choose the father of her child. Yunfang shrugged off her grip and headed for the exit, saying he'd figure things out on his own. The queen told him to stick around for a bit longer because knowing she had a dad would make the little girl really happy. When he asked how she knew, she explained that foxes, when they're happy, have their tails wagging on their own. It's way more honest than their words. Yunfang asked if she was happy too, and she admitted she was a little bit. He then went outside to find his daughter, who was sitting on the roof, staring at the clouds with tears in her eyes. He sat down next to her, and even though she turned her face away, he noticed her tail wagging, showing she was happy to see him. So, Yunfang remembered what the queen had said about their tails. He felt bad for the little girl, who was still turned away because she was upset. He apologized, but she told him he had nothing to be sorry for. She said she understood that adults had their own issues and that she was just a kid, so it made sense that she didn't get everything. Yunfang thought to himself that if the queen hadn't told him how foxes act, he wouldn't have known when the little girl was happy. He gave her a gentle pat on the head. The little girl, still facing away, said she didn't really know him that well and was surprised he was patting her head. All she knew was that he was her biological dad. Yunfang asked her what she wanted since it was their first time meeting. Her eyes lit up, and she got super excited. She asked if he could get her anything she wanted. He promised he'd get her whatever she wished for. The little girl pointed up at the sky and said she wanted a star. Yunfang agreed and tapped her head with his magic, and suddenly they both started flying up into the sky. The little girl was over the moon, pun intended, with joy, squealing that she was flying. She kept asking him to take them higher and higher, and he obliged, soaring up closer to the full moon. She was thrilled, saying it was her first time seeing the star and the moon so close. Yunfang told her to watch closely because he was going to pluck a star for her. The little girl's eyes went wide with shock. She couldn't believe he was really going to do it. So, Yunfang starts chanting, saying something like, "The mouth that can swallow the sun and moon, the hand that can pluck the stars above, shift the astral light." It was all about pulling down a star. The little girl, standing next to him, was totally blown away by what was happening. She watched in awe as a star started coming closer. Meanwhile, somewhere else, people were freaking out because the star had finally fallen. The queen mom muttered to herself, "The supreme saint's still at it, always making a scene." The star looked huge and super hot as it descended. The little girl started panicking, shouting for help. But Yunfang reassured her, saying not to worry because he had it covered. He told her to watch as he touched the massive flame coming their way, turning it into a tiny, shining seed. The girl calmed down once she saw the seed. Yunfang showed it to her, and she was thrilled, saying it looked so beautiful and sparkly. He was stoked she liked it and told her it was just how she wanted it. The little girl then yelled at him for being gone so long and for all the times she'd been bullied. Yunfang immediately apologized for not being around and promised her that if anyone ever gave her trouble again, all she had to do was contact him through the star seed. Even if he was miles away, he'd be there in no time. She asked if that wasn't just for diplomatic stuff, and he told her, "Nope, your dad's got your back, no matter what." And scene change, there was this dude chilling on the other side of the table, right? And he's like, "Hey, Yunfang, I usually just barge in through the door, but today I didn't." Yunfang's all confused, like, "What's up with that?" The guy tells him to come over, grab a bite of his food, so Yunfang walks over, sits down, and takes a bite. He's like, "Dude, you're the only person I know who'd use a chessboard to cook hot pot." The guy laughs and says he's pretty much burned out all his epic calculation mojo trying to unify the god's land, so now he's just a regular human. The chessboard? It's just a fancy way to cook and mess around. He starts going on about how old-school strategists use their brains to change the world and stuff, and some dude managed to level up his calculations from human rank to apex heavenly rank. That's some next-level stuff. But get this, after using his super calculation powers, he totally drained his life energy and dropped back down to human level. The god's land is sorted, but there's still work to do. He says his divine calculations are done, and now it's up to the Supreme Saint and the crew to keep things running. Oh, and he's got this cozy little spot he hangs out at if Yunfang wants to chat. When Yunfang and the guy get back to where they were, the guy asks if he needed anything. Then he asks if Yunfang's friend is having some drama lately. Yunfang slams the table and yells, "Yeah, totally." The guy then asks if this friend has a baby suddenly, and Yunfang's like, "Yes, exactly." The guy asks if his powers have come back, and Yunfang's like, "Nope, still not there." He then starts explaining that his friend's been working nonstop and suddenly has kids with some random women, and he has no clue what to do. Yunfang's all stressed, chugs his tea, and says he's here because he needs some advice. The guy finally puts down his chopsticks and tells Yunfang, "You know, you're actually a really caring person. It's not like the world's ended or anything, but you're genuinely worried about your friend's stuff." So, Yunfang runs up to this guy and grabs his shirt, saying it's his brother's and if he were in his shoes, he'd be super stressed too. The guy's like, "Yeah, I get it. I know my old ways. Just let go, okay? My old, frail body can't handle this much drama." Yunfang finally lets him go and asks for advice so he can help his friend out. The guy says he needs to think it over before giving any tips. Then, out of nowhere, the guy starts laughing hysterically. Between his fits of laughter, he tells Yunfang he can't keep up the charade anymore. Yunfang's not having it, so he starts yelling, demanding to know what kind of joke this is. The guy starts talking about how 15 years ago, he used this ancient technique called the art of heavenly reckoning. Yunfang's like, "Why are you bringing up old stuff now?" The guy explains that this technique could calculate all sorts of outcomes and even uncover conspiracies, and it's a big deal in divine circles. Young Fang agrees with that, but then the guy gets into some deep stuff about what he saw, all these scenarios, like 9 palaces, 16 trigrams, and every possible outcome from epic fails to success. He's saying there were all sorts of endings, like them dying trying to save someone, or being ruled by a bunch of demons, and even the destruction of their world. Young Fang's totally thrown off and says this is all super weird. The guy tells him that all these strange things happening with Qin Fengsu, Yuan Huan, and Kingston were all because of choosing a particular future in his calculations. Young Fang's like, seriously? That's amazing. The guy says he probably knew more than Young Fang thought he did. Young Fang gets super mad and keeps yelling, asking why the guy didn't spill the beans earlier and why he made him look dumb. He's gripping the guy's shirt, and the guy's telling him to chill out because his little body can't handle all this rage. Young Fang finally lets go and asks why it felt like the guy was all powerful and nothing could get past him. The guy explains it's not quite like that. He says he's powerful, sure, but it was all about making choices and sticking to his beliefs that got him where he is. Young Fang then asks why the guy didn't just fix the world if he's so talented. The guy pours himself a drink and says that no matter how he crunched the numbers, it wouldn't have been as good as just chilling, having wine, enjoying hot pot, and chatting about life. He passes the wine to Young Fang, they clink glasses, and take a sip. Young Fang asks what he should do now that he knows everything. The guy laughs again and says if Young Fang tried to remember everything from his past and present, his head might explode. He also says his calculating power is accurate as it can be right now. Young Fang just replies that even if the guy's not able to solve everything, at least he's got some clarity. So, this guy's like, look, you need the right kind of knowledge to tackle your problems. I can only help a little bit, like, if your army needs tips on organizing an attack, I'm your guy. But I'm all about the battlefield and don't have time for love or kids. By now, Young Fang's getting pretty fed up with the back and forth. The guy gets up, moves closer, and puts a hand on Young Fang's neck. He's all, we've faced a ton of dangerous wars before. How did you handle them all? Young Fang's like, I just jump into the fight and break through whatever's in my way. The guy's like, yeah, that's a solid approach. Treat this current mess like a battle, face it head on. Young Fang's mulling over this advice when he asks if the situation is really that different from his usual battles. The guy's like, nope, it's pretty much the same. Whatever scares the Supreme Saint, just let it be. You're safe. Young Fang's not totally convinced by the you're safe bit and questions him about it. The guy says he's kind of envious because Young Fang's got some seriously gorgeous people in his life, and things are getting interesting. Young Fang leaves, and as he's soaring into the sky, he waves down and says goodbye. The guy gives him this really heartfelt smile and says, only when you're mentally ready can you handle life's surprises. Flying away from the kingdom, Young Fang talks to himself, reassuring himself that he's fine and there's nothing to worry about. He stops midair, sits cross-legged, and starts meditating. As he calms down, he realizes he's known the solution all along. He shouts out about needing aphrodisiac powder and plans to take his daughter and her mom to visit the kingdom of Dai again. Young Fang lands and starts chatting with someone who's all about hearing juicy secrets. The person mentions that the Earth Hearing Court is set up and asks him to find this world's top love potion, the blazing scattered sun. The disciple's shocked and repeats the name, wondering why it's suddenly so important. Before he can finish, Young Fang throws a stone at him to shut him up, saying, how dare you question my master? I'm serious about this. The disciple, with a swollen head from the hit, starts apologizing. Young Fang tells him to get out there and find the source of the aphrodisiac powder. The disciple gets up and says that the Earth Hearing Court actually knows where it is, but he's worried it might be a bit tricky to track down. Young Fang's like, when the world was in chaos, we cleaned up all the mess. We don't need any of this stuff now. So, the disciple whispers in Young Fang's ear that he just got some info from the E family. Young Fang's like, E family? Who are they? The disciple says they're his old pals, the ones who showed him some serious hospitality, E Tingu, the world's top merchant saint. Young Fang's like, seriously? With her vibe, how could she be mixed up in this? The disciple reassures him that the Earth Hearing Court's info isn't just random gossip but confirmed stuff. After hearing all this, Young Fang decides he needs to handle things personally. He figures going to Jinling and dealing with it quietly is the best move, especially since Tingu's a close friend. He takes off into the sky, heading straight for Jinling City, which is like the business hub of the 9 states and the 4 seas. He notices some folks hanging out by the city walls and flies directly to the family HQ. Once there, he uses his powers to scope out the place. It's a 6-story building with fancy semicircular barriers, split into 5 sections, each floor protected by these huge energy shields. Underground, there's a massive array of runes and spells, plus 5 top-tier grandmasters hanging out. This place is no joke, it's got some of the best defensive setups you can find. Young Fang's thinking about how Tingu's super particular with her food. No soft, hard, oily, or salty stuff. He knows he's got to handle this privately and doesn't want to barge in as the Supreme Saint, messing with their underground business. He figures if word got out, he'd be the laughingstock of the realm. He decides it's better to go in solo and keep things low-key. Standing outside, he checks out the scene and sees people getting their IDs checked before entering. He figures they're using some top-notch verification tech where personal data is locked onto a card and matched with the heavenly site. Even with the best disguises, you can't fake your genetic info. It's a pretty foolproof system. Young Fang tells himself that only a few people can bypass this system without a hitch, and as the Supreme Saint, he's one of them. He thinks back to his spy days, where he used to do some serious infiltration and get away with a lot. So yeah, he's feeling confident and ready to tackle this whole situation with a bit of stealth and savvy. So, Young Fang's hanging out in his hideout, and his hands itching like crazy. As he's chilling there, a lady walks by, and he's like, perfect. He uses some magic to put her to sleep and gently lays her down, apologizing like, sorry, but I really need to borrow your identity for a sec. He snatches her ID card and uses this super secret technique called Myriad of Emerging Visage to copy all her genetic info. This trick is so top tier, only the Supreme Saint can pull it off. After he's cloned her look, he notices she's got some health issues, like weak spleen and stomach problems. So, he fixes up her little disorders before he heads out. Before leaving her there, he puts up a barrier so no one can see what's going on. He then gets in line and waits for the bouncer to check him in. The bouncer takes his ID card, and Young Fang breezes through the entrance test, thinking it was a piece of cake. Walking into the building, he's met with this massive hall full of people. He spots this monk who got totally obsessed with his own power. This monk went a bit off the rails, couldn't control his desires, and ended up being an outcast. Despite being a bit of a fool, he's got this insane Vajra King's aura, like, seriously unmovable, like a mountain. Young Fang thinks he can't really put him out of commission, but he can subdue him and maybe even be pals later. He figures he won't run into this monk again soon, but surprise, the monk's now guarding the bathroom door. Young Fang notices the monk's a nervous wreck, so he thinks it should be a breeze to get past him. As he's about to get in the elevator, the monk stops him. Young Fang's like, wait, did he recognize me? The monk gets all up in his face and says he's been waiting all night for her, Young Fang in disguise, to show up. He even planned this fancy date. Young Fang's like, whoa, does this monk have a thing for this lady? The monk's totally taken by her looks and charm, and now he's trying to kiss her, demanding she makes it up to him for his betrayed feelings. Young Fang's like, let her go, but the monk's insisting that unless she explains herself, she's not going anywhere. Young Fang thinks, I know how to handle this, and smacks the monk across the face. He yells at the monk, saying he needs to figure things out for himself. The monk starts begging and promising to think about his mistakes. Young Fang, fed up, tells the monk to get lost and that he's got work to do. He leaves the monk behind and heads into the elevator to continue with his plans. So, Young Fang finally hops into the elevator, takes a deep breath, and just lets it out. The elevator hits the 20th floor, and here's the deal, every 20th floor, the elevator switches up to keep spies from sneaking their way to the top. Pretty slick move by the E family, right? He looks around for the gatekeeper of this floor and spots this old dude, Sheng Wuing. This guy's got some serious skills, like, he's got a memory that's basically a photographic encyclopedia and was the top strategist for the Eastern family until Young Fang's heavenly reckoning art totally messed up their game after their big fall. After that, this dude lost his gig. So, Sheng Wuing tells Young Fang to come over and asks him about his identity. Young Fang pulls out the fake ID he borrowed from the lady he put to sleep earlier. But Sheng Wuing's like, nah, I mean your real identity. Young Fang's like, seriously? I'm just here for some office stuff. Sheng Wuing's like a human database. He knows the names, genders, positions, and daily schedules of everyone who works in the building. He even starts listing off the schedule for the lady Young Fang's impersonating. Turns out, she's not supposed to be anywhere near the business areas above the 20th floor. Young Fang tries to play it cool, saying it's a last-minute thing from her boss that morning. Sheng Wuing then asks for the name of her supervisor. Young Fang's stuck because he doesn't have that info. He's thinking to himself that there's no way he can outsmart this guy. So, Young Fang's like, oh, wait, I remember now. And he pulls out this epic move that totally freezes everyone in place. The old guy's just standing there, like, what's going on? And Young Fang's thinking to himself, I just used this skill to kinda stop time here. Then the old dude's all, whoa, are you really Holy Saint? And Young Fang's like, yeah, that's me. The old guy starts asking Young Fang why he's dressed all weird and sneaky instead of just going through the proper channels. He's like, are you here to talk to the family head or something? Young Fang's like, yeah, that's exactly why I'm here. The old guy's like, alright, you can go up, but there's a thing. 3 guys up there are gonna check you out, and they're actually friends, so it shouldn't be too bad. Young Fang's like, cool, I'll head up then, and restarts time. So, Young Fang makes it up to the 80th floor and sees this dude with a sword. Young Fang's thinking, hold up, I know I've seen this guy before, but I can't place him, and I've got a really bad vibe about this. The dude's like, so, the invisible Holy Lord has arrived. Young Fang remembers that this guy's a top-tier sword master. Young Fang's playing it cool, pretending like he's just there for business, and says, I think you might have misunderstood. I'm not here to fight. The guy's like, sure, your appearance might change, but you can't fool me. I know who you are. Young Fang looks around, sees no one else is around, and the guy's like, yeah, no worries, no one else is here. Don't sweat it. So Young Fang drops the act and gets real, asking the guy what he's doing and what conditions he's been given. The sword guy pulls out his sword and's like, how about I test out your swordsmanship skills? Young Fang's like, man, you're really obsessed, huh? But the duel kicks off. The guy's got some serious power, like, in a split second, he's got his sword out and almost takes Young Fang out. If Young Fang were anyone else, he'd be done for. But Young Fang grabs the guy's sword and flips him back, breaking his sword in the process. The guy's totally shocked. Young Fang's like, how's that for a practice session? The guy's like, thanks, holy lord, for the chance to spar with you. Young Fang then asks, can I go up now? And the guy's like, yeah, the family head's been waiting for you for a while. So Young Fang's thinking, how did that girl know I was coming here? And then he's like, I should have just hooked up with her earlier if she knew. I've wasted so much time. Anyway, he shows up at her office and is all, it's been forever since we last met. I didn't expect you'd become the world's biggest business mogul so quickly. Then this dude steps in and says, hey, holy lord, looks like you might have been misled. You don't recognize me, do you? Young Fang's like, whoa, there's another guy here. The guy suddenly taps something, and chairs and stuff magically appear. He's like, Lord, please have a seat. Young Fang's like, who are you, and where's E? The guy's like, Ye's my mom. Young Fang's totally shocked and is like, oh, so you're the son everyone's been talking about, the one who's rumored to be the new head of the family and is rarely seen. The guy's like, yep, the holy lord's here. Did something happen that made you come here? Or are you here for my family's secret corporation? Young Fang asks, how do you know why I'm here? The guy's like, the barrier outside is just a decoy. We've got spies every 100 meters in every direction, so I knew you were coming. Young Fang's like, oh, so you think I'm here to challenge you or something? The guy's like, if you were here to challenge us, the barriers and our people wouldn't have been enough to stop you. If we knew you were coming to fight or challenge us, we'd be thousands of miles away by now, and you wouldn't even have the chance to see us. Young Fang's like, yeah, I should have guessed. Since your mom's like that, you must be sharp too. You're just as clever. The guy sits down and says, so, what are you really here for? Please, tell me. Young Fang explains, I heard the new head of the family is really young, smart, and skilled. The guy's like, thanks for the compliment, but it's all thanks to my mom. She taught me everything I know. Young Fang laughs and says, I remember having a close relationship with your mom a long time ago. She was super helpful to me. I didn't expect she'd have kids, and that they'd turn out this amazing. So the guy tells Young Fang, you're just here to chat? You could have scheduled another appointment. I'm kinda swamped right now. And then, suddenly, everything falls into place. Like, he's got a full itinerary of who he needs to meet and what he needs to do. Young Fang's thinking, man, this kid's super young and already running the show. When I was his age, I was just hustling and trying to survive. This kid's future looks solid. The guy starts talking about some love powder and says he's stopping its production. Young Fang's like, what do you mean you can't do it? Are you seriously turning me down? The guy's like, no, I don't want to make you mad. If you want it banned, just give the order, and we won't make it. But why come all this way just to see me, especially when you're wasting our time? Young Fang's like, I've lost a lot because of this stuff, and I came here privately to make this request. You're not agreeing, and that's a problem. The guy's like, I'm the head of this family. I can't just stop things on a whim. This powder you're talking about is pretty rare, and I don't get why you're making such a big deal about banning it. Young Fang's like, it's harmful to people, that's why I want it banned. The guy's like, but there are other harmful meds out there. Why not ban those too? Then he adds, we can't just stop it based on your word alone. That's when Young Fang loses his cool and uses his power, which makes the guy's mask break. So Young Fang looks at him and says, hey, you look bit familiar, you know? But then the guy goes and puts his mask back on and goes, if the revered one says so, then no matter who you are, this family or anyone else, no one can go against what the revered one says. But I'm wondering, is this really the same world the revered one talked about, where the world would belong to the people? In the end, it's still your world, oh great revered one. Hearing this, Young Fang gets pretty ticked off but stays all zen and says, man, this guy is such a jerk. He shut me up with his words. If I force this issue and people find out, it'll totally break the faith in the world, and it'll take forever to fix things back to how they were. The guy says, you're right, and if you don't have anything else to say, you can leave. But Young Fang laughs and says, why do you think I'm just gonna walk away so easily? Did you really underestimate me? The guy's like, so what do you want? And Young Fang says, look, peace has finally come to the world, and ruling it means maintaining that peace. Your family is the biggest business group in the world, so for the good of the world, they can't refuse what I have to say. Am I right? In his head, Young Fang's thinking, let's see how long this little brat can handle this. But then the guy goes, you're a big shot and probably have a ton of stuff to do, so why wait around here? That's when Young Fang turns into a clown, and the guy's totally shocked. Then, before you know it, Young Fang makes a bunch of clowns and surrounds him, saying, seems like you didn't appreciate my charming approach, huh? Guess I'll have to switch up my style. Young Fang sits him down and says, hurry up with this clown stuff. It takes a lot of my power to keep these guys going, and I can only keep them up for like 7 or 8 months straight. Then, out of nowhere, a voice says, you understand, son, the great revered one is seriously powerful. And through a portal, a girl steps out. She looks at Young Fang with this intense look. Young Fang has to get rid of all his clowns, and the girl tells her son, you go outside, I'll handle this with Young Fang myself. The son listens and leaves, and then she casually drops that she had to come here because she's teaching her kid an important lesson. Yun Feng greets her, saying it's been a while since they last saw each other, but he also admits he always feels a little nervous when they're alone. Tingu, being Tingu, immediately asks why he's so obsessed with the whole freezer with Paul Bowl and Yank situation. Yun Feng explains that it's because a friend of his got into serious trouble because of it, so he considers it super dangerous. Then, Tingu drops a wild fact. she asks if he knows the real name of Polvo Liang. Turns out, it's actually Sunshine Weijing, which isn't just some random thing. It's actually a miracle medicine that helps women struggling with infertility. She even reveals that it helped a ton of women achieve their dream of having kids, including her. Yunfeng is completely floored by this revelation. She explains that when she was 28, she went to tons of famous doctors, only to find out she had something called lonely Yin, meaning she could never have children. Desperate, she traveled all the way to Yaguang Valley, where a doctor gave her a special medicine recipe that changed everything for her. Yunfeng is still trying to process all this when he asks her why this whole thing makes women lose their minds. Tingu gives him the real answer. Yes, the medicine helps women have kids, but it also has a serious side effect. Apparently, when women drink it, their whole body just ignites with passion. And because of that, some people started using it as a freaking aphrodisiac, which obviously led to a whole mess. She admits that when she found out about the problem, she immediately took action, setting up facilities to help the women affected by it. But, despite her efforts, the medicine is still floating around the black market. That said, even though some people misuse it, it has also brought happiness to countless couples who just wanted kids. She then throws a serious question at Yunfeng: should he focus on the suffering of a few or the joy of many? She basically asks him to decide what's more important. Yunfeng, completely stuck between a rock and a hard place, has no clue how to respond. In the end, he gives up and says, fine, you win, but he asks her to stop producing it as a favor to him. Tingu, of course, doesn't make it easy. She's like, sure, but I want 5 favors in return. Yunfeng protests, saying that's not how bargaining works, so she lowers it to 4. He keeps pushing back, and they finally settle on 3 favors. They shake on it, sealing the deal. Then, out of nowhere, Tingu casually mentions that thanks to modern medical advancements, they've already removed the side effects. And that's when it hits Yunfeng. He got played. This was all a setup from the start, a plan between Tingu and her son to get those favors out of him. Immediately, she's like, alright, time to cash in those favors. Yunfeng, completely offended, realizes he walked straight into a trap. He calls her out, saying she's absolutely ruthless. But she just smiles and tells him not to think of her as someone who's always scheming for a profit. Then she reminds him that a promise is a promise, and she really needs those favors. Yunfeng, still salty, asks how it's possible that someone as powerful as Miss Tingu can't just get what she wants herself. His words actually hit her hard, and for the first time, she looks genuinely affected. She tells him that she's capable of getting anything on her own, but Yunfeng sees how much his words affected her. He quickly reassures her, telling her she doesn't need to act strong in front of him because he truly cares about her. He'd do anything to make her happy. That actually calms her down, and then she hits him with another bombshell. She asks him, as the father of her son and daughter, to find a way to save them. Yunfeng is completely thrown off. He's like, wait, what? That's when it finally clicks. He's been unknowingly leaving kids behind everywhere, and now it turns out the boy from earlier looked so familiar because he literally looks like a younger version of him. In shock, he turns to Tingu and demands to know how this is even possible. He insists he always respected her, and nothing ever happened between them, right? Tingu, totally embarrassed, asks him when she ever told him to be respectful. Then she explains that this whole thing was just destiny at work. She even reminds him that while the medicine has a side effect on women, it also has one on men. Yunfeng, still trying to wrap his head around this whole situation, asks, wait, what kind of side effect are we talking about? Daou told her that 18 years ago, she was preparing the Liang medicine, and just when she was about to take it, he knocked on her door about some business matters. Since she didn't want to deal with him, she hid the rest of the medicine. Before leaving, she told him to stay in her room and not let anyone in. She also warned him not to touch anything in a hara because she knew he was a drunk. Fen cut her off and said, okay, that part one remember. What happened next? She sighed and told him that when she got back, he had already drunk the entire medicine. Since she didn't want to waste what was left, she took the rest herself. The next morning, when she woke up, they were in bed together. After that, she knew that sooner or later, he would leave her, so she pretended like nothing had ever happened to avoid any awkwardness. Fang looked at her and asked, so you really thought I'd just walk away and abandon you? She shook her head. No, it's the opposite. If I had told you, you would have joined the Yi family, and I knew that would have held you back from reaching your full potential. That's why I'm asking for those 3 favors the Divine Venerable promised me. Yunfeng had no idea what was going on, but then Sairi asked, so, tell me about your kids. Daou smiled and said, I have a son, super smart, really good at business, though his vocabulary is a bit colorful, but he's a good kid. Honestly, I'm pretty sure he's going to surpass me in business soon. Our protagonist thanked her for raising their son alone and told her how happy he was to hear that. But then Daou's expression changed. She looked sad. She hesitated for a moment, then said, actually, he's not your son. Our protagonist blinked. Wait, what? She leaned in and whispered in his ear, she's your daughter. He froze. His brain short-circuited. Then, of course, he screamed. Shh! His waifu quickly covered his mouth. Keep it down. Yunfeng, still trying to process everything, asked, please, tell me everything. She sighed, sat down, and finally explained everything. From the moment she had lose, her career started to go downhill. Since she was the only heir of her father, the other family leaders wanted her out. But she never gave up. She worked harder every single day. Our protagonist looked at her and said, "Hey, don't beat yourself up. Thanks to you, the Yi family is recognized all over the kingdom. Because of her insane work ethic, she had earned the title the Divine Businesswoman of Shenzhou, but she admitted that she regretted it because she didn't get to spend much time with her kids. Sure, they had everything they needed: money, comfort, love, but when Luz was 6, she and her sibling were kidnapped. That's when she lost it. She shattered the model she was holding in anger. Yeah, so, that was a family heirloom," she said, crossing her arms. "You better pay for that, but our protagonist just casually fixed it with his powers. They're all good." She rolled her eyes and continued her story. Back then, she had been so focused on work, and out of nowhere, her housekeeper ran in and told her that her kids were gone. She was completely shaken, especially since her children had powerful martial artist bodyguards protecting them. "How did they just vanish like that?" she asked. "All they found was a letter, nothing else." She used all of her family's influence and resources to find them, but there was no trace. Yun Feng frowned. "That doesn't make any sense. With guards that strong, how did someone manage to take them?" She told him that they were probably taken to bring her down, but she knew that wasn't the case because no one ever contacted her asking for money or anything. Then, a month later, out of nowhere, the housekeeper told her she had found them, just left at the doorstep. But they wouldn't let anyone get close except for her. When she finally saw them, they were in terrible shape. Her son was carrying his little sister, and the moment she tried to hug them, they both collapsed. She rushed them to a doctor, and when they finally woke up, they were okay. But from that day on, everything about them changed. Her son became ruthless with everyone except her and his sister. And her daughter? When her brother wasn't home, she would shut herself in her room. She went about her daily activities like normal, but the only people she ever spoke to were her brother and mother. And if her brother wasn't around, she literally acted like him. She would take his place, just like she did today. The protagonist looked at her and asked why she never asked for his help all these years. She told him she knew he was busy running an entire kingdom. Plus, he had way too many enemies. If she involved him, she'd be putting him and her kids in danger all over again. That's why she never said a word. Yun Feng stood up and told her he always knew she was strong and proud, but there's nothing wrong with asking for help. Even he didn't get where he was alone. Tim Young, looking nervous, asked what they could do now to help her daughter. The protagonist told her they needed someone who could heal the mind, and he used his powers to enter her daughter's thoughts. That's when he realized she actually believed she was her older brother. Like, deep down, she had convinced herself that was who she was. She wanted to be strong enough to protect her mother and little sister. When he came back, he explained what he saw. Tim Young looked heartbroken because every doctor she had taken her daughter to had said the same thing. She begged him to tell her there was a way to help her. Yun Feng reassured her there was a technique that could work, something called spatial consciousness. He went back into her mind, diving even deeper this time, trying to unlock her memories. He saw a whole world of memories, but in every single one, the only thing driving her was her brother's determination to protect his family. Then, he felt something different, one memory that stood out. In it, she was chained to a stone, terrified, crying out for her brother to save her. Yun Feng tried to step into that memory, but the rest of her mind pushed him out, and he was forcefully ejected from her consciousness. The moment he opened his eyes, Tim Young was already panicking, asking what had happened. He explained that there was a memory of when she was captured, and the fear she felt at that moment was so intense that it made her believe her only safety was in becoming her brother. Tingu started crying. She had never known what really happened to them because they had always refused to tell her. She had promised herself she'd get stronger so they'd never have to worry about her, but hearing the truth broke her. And what made it worse was realizing that whoever had taken them never actually wanted her. They wanted her kids. Yun Feng knew she needed support at that moment, so he stayed by her side. She wiped her tears and asked if he could actually cure her daughter. Yun Feng told her yes, but he wasn't skilled enough to go deeper into her mind. The technique required complete mental clarity and control, something he didn't have. Tingu asked what they could do. Yun Feng told her there was only one person in the world who could pull it off. She immediately knew who he was talking about. B Hazing, she asked. But B was impossible to find. She had searched for her before, but B's whereabouts were always unknown. Yun Feng admitted that he did have a way to contact her, but it was kind of embarrassing. Tingu grabbed his hand and told him they needed to go immediately. Yun Feng, flustered, told her to hold on, but then she realized she was still holding his hand. She quickly pulled away, embarrassed, and asked him if he didn't want to cure her daughter as soon as possible. So, our boy tells her, "Yeah, sure, I got you. But first, he has to contact her using some kind of mysterious, next-level connection method that only they understand." At this point, Waifu starts getting jealous, but Poppy Feng is right there, so he just goes with it and hires her. A few minutes later, he finally reaches her, and she tells him she's at Yaguang Valley, where they can talk more comfortably. Then, she just hangs up. Yun Feng turns to Tinyu and says, "Alright, we can go now." But Tinyu is still mad and refuses. He tells him to go alone since he doesn't have some weird, indescribable connection like that girl does with him. Yun Feng has no choice but to do it solo. Waifu sets up a teleportation portal, and boom, he's there in no time. When he arrives, he sees this house with a long line of people waiting to be seen by a super famous doctor. But then, some shady dudes try to cut in line. A guy steps in and tells them, "Hey, you gotta wait like everyone else." But suddenly, a bald guy gets pissed and attacks him. Our boy Feng is just standing there watching, then casually stops time, taps the dude's arm with one finger, and, snap, dude's arm bends the wrong way. After that, he casually strolls into the house, brings time back to normal, and just lets it play out. Sure enough, the guy's arm is broken, and his friends, now totally freaked out, grab their boss and take him somewhere else. Inside, the doctor is busy treating a patient. When she's done, Yunfeng greets her and says, "Damn, you're really busy, huh?" Then he asks if she knows where his sister is. She tells him, yeah, she's up on the mountain. He thanks her, then asks, wait, doesn't Yagwang Valley have some rule about only treating people with rare diseases? She just shrugs and says she doesn't care about rules as long as she can help as many people as possible. Yunfeng is impressed and nods, then notices 2 lines outside and asks, why are there 2 separate lines? She sighs and explains, one of them is just guys begging me to go on a date with them. I reject them every time, but they keep coming back. Poppy Feng, being the ultimate wingman, tells her, say less, I got this, then uses his powers to take control of the dudes and make them leave. Problem solved. Meanwhile, our protagonist is now at the top of the mountain, surrounded by thick fog. Apparently, if a normal person walks in, they'll get lost and die, but for him, easy. He eventually finds Hazing and sits down, but he's so nervous he can't even look her in the eyes. She, being a great host, flexes her powers and magically creates a watermelon out of thin air, then offers him some. She tells him, no need to be nervous around me. Yunfeng notices she has the same lotus mark as Devia, but he can't read her thoughts. She reassures him, saying, don't worry about that. I only say what I actually mean, and I feel super comfortable with you. Yunfeng takes a bite of the watermelon, and it's delicious. Curious, he asks, where did you get this? Hazan smiles and says, a little girl found it at the top of this mountain. Yunfeng, confused, asks, wait, who else lives up here? But before she can answer, he hears a voice calling him dad from a distance. He freezes. He's still not used to being called that and can't believe it. When he turns around, he sees an adorable little girl running toward him. Instinctively, he stops time, and Hazing laughs, saying, that's a pretty amazing ability. Still shocked, he asks, who is that girl? Hazing smiles and says, that's my daughter. Her name is Liansheng. Feng is straight up in shock but quickly realizes he doesn't even care anymore. He just wants to know how this is even possible. Wait, how do we have a kid? He asks. Waifu, knowing everything about all his women and children, calmly explains, 7 years ago, you were consumed by rage after losing all your comrades in the Great War to unify Shinsu. Because of that, you inherited the power of the god of slaughter. But that much power drove you insane. You almost wiped out the entire planet. I had to step in. That day, I was ready to take you out, but I realized you weren't just some mindless killer. You had honor, you had purpose. I also noticed your body couldn't handle that much power. It was about to explode. So, I kissed you. That stabilized you, but as a side effect, I got pregnant. Daddy Feng almost falls over. Hold up. You're telling me, a single kiss got you pregnant? She nods. Yep, I'm a deity. That's how it works. Since Feng is still weak from the whole ordeal, she takes him to Liangqi for treatment. Feng remembers that after that day, he felt way stronger. She confirms it. Of course, I opened your Lotus of Life and used a secret technique from my sect. That's why your body and mind were completely rebuilt. You're so powerful now because of that. Feng, still trying to process everything, asks, then why didn't you tell me about our daughter before? She looks a little sad. It's not that I didn't want to, I just couldn't. I don't have much time left. Feng stiffens. What do you mean? She sighs. I have a rare disease called crystal body. There's no cure. She explains that she wanted to wait until she found a cure before introducing him to their daughter. Her dream was to take Liansheng around the world once she got better. But that never happened. Feng is stunned. He feels completely powerless. He asks, there has to be a way to save you. Are you sure there's no cure? She tells him that she searched everywhere, but no one has been able to help. She doesn't want to keep suffering. Both parents are heartbroken, and they end up crying together. But Feng? He's not the type to just sit back and accept this. He swears right then and there, I'll search the entire world if I have to. I'll find the best doctors and make sure they find a cure. Hazing is touched by his determination. If that's how you feel, don't you want to go hug your daughter? Feng doesn't hesitate. Of course, he restores time to normal, making sure to suppress his power so he doesn't accidentally hurt Liansheng. He kneels down and pulls her into a tight hug. I'm so sorry I haven't been here for you all these years, he tells her. She just smiles up at him. It's okay. Can you carry me on your back? I want to fly. And with that, we see them soaring through the sky together, laughing and finally making up for lost time. Liang straight up asked if Ben could also pull down a star for her, just like he did for her sister, Xuan. Completely caught off guard, was like, wait, how do you even know about that? Liang just smiled and said she's seen everything. That's when Hinsey explained that his little girl has this wild ability, she can see the entire world without even leaving this place. And this tiny girl, who's been in love with her dad forever, follows him everywhere. She looked up at him with big eyes and asked if he could bring out his unmovable king so they could go catch some birds. Obviously, Poppy Feng couldn't say no and agreed right away. But before they got started, the waifu told him she was gonna check on Tin Yong's daughter and take care of her while they had their little bonding time. Ben thanked her, activated a portal, and poof, she teleported straight to the Yi family's building. A while later, father and daughter were having the best time catching birds with the unmovable king. That's when Liang Xian showed up and told Ben to come down soon because she made a super delicious dinner for everyone. Ben was like, for sure. Then Liang proudly showed her aunt the fancy little bird she caught with her dad. Both of them were mesmerized by how beautiful it was. Ben shook his head and told Liang she was acting like a little kid, but the waifu just laughed and said she was just being a mom to her daughter. Then Liang turned to her dad and said, did you know Aunt Liang Xian also has a son? Ben was totally caught off guard. He stared at Liang Xian and asked why she never told him. I could have gotten him a gift. But before anyone could say anything else, a huge explosion suddenly shook the place. Liang's heart dropped, and she immediately screamed. The waifu bolted towards the house, but Poppy Feng was faster. He swooped in and grabbed the kid just in time. Liang Xian, completely freaking out, ran over and asked if her son was okay. Ben reassured her, don't worry, he's just unconscious. Liang Xian checked his vitals, and when she saw he was fine, she let out a sigh of relief. But then she swore that the moment he woke up, she was gonna give him a serious talking to for making her worry so much. A few minutes later, the kid woke up and flashed his dad the biggest smile. And, of course, our protagonist was in complete shock. Like, huh, what just happened? He yeeted his own kid into the sky. Liang Xian screamed in terror as she watched her precious boy literally fly through the air. Feng, realizing he just majorly messed up, snapped out of it when Liang Xian yelled at him to get their son back immediately. Like a responsible dad, kinda, he used his insane powers and created a giant energy tower to catch the kid. Meanwhile, Bamboo, instead of freaking out, was just in awe, staring at the planet like it was the coolest thing ever. Liang Xian, still in full-on worried mom mode, demanded he be brought down immediately. But her bad luck continued because her tiny daredevil of a son yelled from the sky, hey, Dad, can you make me a slide? I want to go down it. Obviously, cool Dad Feng wasted no time and made it happen. And without a second thought, Bamboo launched himself from the sky, sliding down like he was at the best amusement park ever. Right before landing, he shouted, catch me, Dad. And, of course, Feng caught him like a pro. The second Bamboo was back on the ground, he turned to his dad and said, that was awesome. Let's do it again. At that moment, his sister, Liang, ran over, eyes sparkling, and said, I want to play too. Our protagonist, who was definitely not used to kids popping up out of nowhere, was officially overwhelmed. He straight up stopped time, grabbed Liang Xian's hand, and pulled her aside so they could talk. She, completely blown away by what just happened, looked at him and asked, okay, how the heck do you have an ability like that? Yunfeng was about to respond, but then it hit him. Why did he even stop time in the first place? He looked at Liangyi and told her to explain what was going on. She just stared at him, totally confused. Yunfeng, already losing his patience, yelled that their son had just called him dad. Liangyi smiled and told him that he was his dad. Yunfeng took a deep breath and asked her to give him a second to process this whole situation. Then, as expected, he collapsed to the ground, rethinking every life choice he had ever made. Because, once again, Toka had been used as some kind of tool by another woman. After finally getting himself together, he told Liangyi to go ahead and explain how they even had a kid. Anthy said it all started when her sister, Henshin, brought Yunfeng to heal his injuries. At the time, she had been working on an ancient medicine that could help women who couldn't have kids, but she was missing the final ingredient, a man, to test if the formula actually worked. Since Yunfeng was the only guy she knew, she asked if he could help. But because he was in a coma for so long and couldn't answer, she just took his silence as a yes. Yunfeng immediately realized that he had been completely taken advantage of. Liangchen, with zero shame, thanked him for his help and told him that the medicine had been a total success. Thanks to him and Miss Ting Yukto, everything worked out perfectly. Yunfeng, being the chill guy he was, decided to let this one slide since, technically, he had done something good. Liangchen then mentioned that the Valley of Medicine had become a much livelier place thanks to all the kids. Yunfeng, remembering that the Master of Medicine had passed away, told her that she had done an amazing job carrying on his legacy. Liangchen appreciated the compliment, but she was worried because her son was too wild and had zero interest in learning medicine. She begged Yunfeng to help convince him otherwise. Yunfeng told her that his own parents had also tried to force him into learning the art of war, but he had been way more interested in messing around with a wooden sword. His advice? Don't force the kid into something just because they're his parents. Instead, they should support whatever he actually enjoys. Liangchen understood but then asked what would happen to the Valley of Medicine's legacy. Yunfeng told her that if she wanted to pass down her healing techniques, he knew the perfect place for her, Imperial City. He explained that they were opening a medical school soon, and she would be a perfect dean. She hesitated at first, but Yunfeng hyped her up, telling her he couldn't think of anyone more qualified. Liangchen, clearly moved, gave him a big, passionate hug. Then, realizing what she had just done, she got all flustered. Liangchen asked him to watch the kids while she made dinner. Yunfeng, feeling lucky to have such great kids, brought everything back to normal time. Of course, the little troublemakers immediately asked if they could keep playing. He told them, of course, and used his powers to create a massive new play area, which totally blew their minds. Then, proving once again that he was the ultimate cool dad, Yunfeng activated his powers again, and suddenly, the sky transformed into an enormous castle made entirely of walnuts. The kids lost their minds over how awesome it was. Yunfeng, being the absolute legend that he was, told them to go have fun while Liangchen finished making dinner. Watching his kids playing together like that made him realize something. This was the kind of happiness he wanted to last forever. As long as the world stayed peaceful, moments like this could go on forever. After a while, dinner was finally ready, and the whole family sat down to eat, laughing and having a great time together. After they finished eating, Bambo asked his mom if his dad was the strongest man in the world. She told him that his dad was really powerful, but she wasn't sure about that since she had never left the Medicine Valley. Liang said that his mom always told him that his dad was the strongest man, but he wasn't very good at talking to girls. Liangchen agreed, saying that when she first met him, his face turned completely red. Feng, feeling embarrassed, asked them to stop. Out of nowhere, his kids asked him for a favor. They wanted him to go with them to a secret base they had found recently. Apparently, it had some crazy stuff inside, like a talking wall, and they wanted him to check it out. Feng wondered if they had really stumbled upon a base that was over 500 years old. Bambo, looking worried, begged him to come along because his best friend was trapped inside a room. His friend had taught him a new language and how to write, and he really wanted to save him, but their moms couldn't do anything to help. Like any dad would, Feng agreed. His kids were over the moon and immediately took him to the place they were talking about. After a while, Feng started analyzing the area, but before he could process anything, his little troublemakers ran straight into a portal. That's when he noticed, using his mystical eyes, that there was a hidden cave. But then he got concerned. How did his kids even find this place? He had to use his powers to see it, so how did they figure it out on their own? Before he could say anything, Bambo shouted for him to follow them. He rushed after them and entered a place that looked super high-tech. After taking a closer look, he saw his kids standing next to a woman and asked them who she was. Bambo said that at first, they thought she was a real person, but their Aunt Haishin had analyzed her recently and figured out that she was probably a puppet from an ancient civilization. Feng checked for himself and confirmed that she had no soul. As he kept looking around, he found capsules with people inside, but they weren't alive anymore. Their bodies were already skeletons, yet their bones were still intact, which confused him. Then he noticed a family photo nearby and started wondering what had happened. Suddenly, a screen turned on, and a beautiful woman named Lyndon appeared. She greeted the kids, who happily told her they had brought their dad to help her. Feng immediately realized she was the woman from the photo. She thanked the kids for their help and then, without wasting any time, started checking out Feng from head to toe. She told the kids that their dad was really handsome. They proudly said that was obvious. Feng, without hesitating, asked why he couldn't sense any mana from her. She explained that it was because she was just a virtual image, and her real body was trapped in a room at the back of the base. Feng was completely lost. Ever since the Great War, people had forgotten about the ancient civilizations, so he had no clue what a virtual image even was. Bambo told him that she was inside a monitor, and Liang added that their older sister had taught them a lot of things, which had helped Bambo create some crazy inventions. Suddenly, the woman looked like she wasn't feeling well, and the kids got worried and asked what was wrong. Liana told them that the base's energy was running out, which meant her real body was about to die. The kids, now in tears, begged their dad to save her. Feng told them to calm down and assured them that he would. He asked the woman how he could help her. She told him not to worry, that she was happy because she got to spend her last day with such amazing kids. Bambo, devastated, begged him to save her, saying that his mom could treat her and bring her back. Yunfeng didn't answer and instead asked her why she was trapped there. Linda said that 500 years ago, a massive war nearly wiped out civilization. Her parents managed to escape to this place, but the enemy found them. To keep her safe, they hid her here, even though she begged them to let her out so she could help fight. But they refused again and again and went off to face the enemy themselves. She kept dreaming over and over, and when she finally woke up, they were gone. Ever since, she hadn't been able to leave this place. With tears in her eyes, she said the only thing she regretted was not being there with her parents in their final moments. The kids, totally heartbroken, started crying and begged their dad to save their big sister. Yunfeng, being the absolute legend that he is, said he would, then told them to take him to the room so he could free her. The kids were thrilled and immediately led the way. Meanwhile, Linda had this weird, unsettling smile on her face. Back with Yunfeng, his kids pointed out another strange-looking formation in the area, something their moms hadn't been able to figure out. He immediately noticed there were bodies there and, just in case, used his insanely powerful abilities to throw up a protective barrier around his kids so nothing would happen to them. He told them to stay put while he went to rescue their friend. The kids, looking at him like he was the ultimate superhero, were beyond excited. A few minutes later, Yunfeng started dismantling all the traps in the area like it was nothing, because, well, he's just built different. But then, out of nowhere, a laser weapon locked onto him and fired a massive blast. The explosion was insane, but Yunfeng? He didn't even flinch. He had armor on, but even he was shocked when he saw it was nearly destroyed. Realizing this was no joke, he immediately powered up a stronger defense. He rushed to open the door, only to find out it was made from some insanely strong material. If he hit it with full force, Linda could get hurt. Thinking fast, he slammed his hands against the ground and created a hidden entrance instead. Meanwhile, outside the mountain, Bambo turned to Lin and asked her to use her powers to check on their dad. She tried, but said she couldn't see anything because of all the light. Back inside, Yunfeng, now known as the ultimate problem solver, successfully got the door open. And out of nowhere, nowhere, something attacks him and completely traps him. Turns out, the one behind it is the waifu, who yells that she's finally free and is about to wreck this world. Our protagonist? Not even a little bit fazed. He just watches the whole thing go down. She tells him she's grateful he freed her, but now she's taking over his body because, well, he's crazy powerful. She throws some robotic tentacles at him, but Poppy Fong doesn't even flinch. With his insane powers, he completely shuts her down. The thing freaks out and demands to be let go. Fong, totally chill, just tells her, "Did you really think I'd fall for that nonsense? First of all, those lasers outside? They're designed to make sure nothing leaves this room. And second, my mom never actually took a fatal hit. I could have freed her anytime." The thing is shook. She straight up asks, "Then why did you release me?" Tito Fong smirks and says, "Because I'm invincible and I fear nothing. And also, I can't disappoint my kids." The creepy creature sighs, saying, "What a shame." And then, suddenly, a robot from outside jumps in and attacks Tito Fong. She starts laughing, yelling that he's done for, and that as revenge, she's taking over his precious son's body. But our protagonist? He straight up eats the attack, spits it back out, and obliterates the robot in one hit. The waifu? Terrified. She can't even process what just happened. Fong, not wasting any time, looks at her and says, "Since no one knows you exist, I guess there's no problem in just getting rid of you." She's in total shock, but quickly pulls herself together and starts begging for her life. And our guy, being the absolute legend that he is, actually lets her go. She thanks him for the second chance, but, plot twist, it was all a trap. She takes advantage of a small distraction, pulls some crazy mind control trick on him, and starts laughing hysterically, calling him a complete idiot. But then, boom, she suddenly starts screaming in pain. We cut to inside her mind, where we see Tito Fong standing tall in front of a massive creature. The beast looks at him in disbelief and asks, "How are you even in here?" Fong, dead serious, tells her, "You messed with the wrong person." His body starts radiating an insane amount of energy, completely obliterating the creature. Back in reality, the waifu looks like she's dying, then spits out some weird virus thing before finally coming back to her senses. She groggily asks who he is and where her parents are, but before she can get any answers, she passes out from exhaustion. Sometime later, our protagonist is carrying her in his arms when his kids run over, freaking out, asking if their big sister is okay. A few minutes pass, and Liang Xin is checking her over and treating her wounds. When he's done, Fong asks how she's doing. She starts to answer, but Fong quickly puts a finger to his lips, silently telling her to keep it down. Liang Xin turns bright red but nods and tells the kids, "Your big sis just needs to rest. Go play outside." The kids, super excited, happily run off. Now that they're alone, Fong turns to Liang Xin and tells her, "The people from 500 years ago had some insane technology. When she wakes up, can you ask if she knows a way to cure my little girl's illness?" Liang Xin nods. Of course. Suddenly, Henshin calls Fong, telling him to come immediately. He gets the message loud and clear, says goodbye to Liang Xin, and asks her to take care of the kids while he handles business. But before leaving, he tells her, "As parents, we have to support our children in whatever choices they make." Liang Xin said she understood what he was saying, and just as Fong was about to leave, the kids, who had been happily watching, suddenly realized he was going. They asked why he was leaving, looking all sad. Fong, seeing their little faces drop, smiled and said if they let him go, he'd show them something amazing. The kids, surprised but curious, agreed. Then, out of nowhere, we see our guy start using his crazy magical powers. Suddenly, the sky splits open, and a massive portal appears, pouring out a ton of water. The kids freaked out, thinking the whole place was about to flood, but Fong told them to chill and look around. Trusting him, they did, and what they saw left them speechless. Right in front of them, a giant bubble of water floated in the air, filled with all kinds of beautiful sea creatures. Their little eyes went wide with amazement. Fong, happy that he had made them smile, said his goodbyes. Then we switch scenes. Now, Fong is back at the Yi family's building and immediately notices waifu with Heqing. Just as they're about to start treating her daughter, Fong sees the worry all over waifu's face. He promised her he'd save her little girl. Both cultivators dove into the child's consciousness and found themselves in a full-on apocalyptic nightmare, total destruction everywhere. Heqing, who had been here before, explained that this was happening because the girl's heart was full of fear and her mind had locked itself away. Fong got what he meant and asked him to take him straight to the girl's heart. As they moved forward, something suddenly attacked them, but to them, it felt like nothing more than a tickle. That's when a massive shadowy giant appeared, screaming like crazy, demanding they leave his little sister alone. They both instantly knew, whatever this thing was, the girl must have gone through some serious trauma for it to form inside her mind. Fong turned to Heqing and asked how they could deal with this thing without hurting the girl, or themselves. Heqing said that's exactly why he called him, because the only way out of here was to defeat it without harming it at all. Fong, catching on fast, quickly made himself a giant too. Instead of fighting back, he just took all of the shadow giant's attacks, knowing that hurting it could be dangerous for everyone. Meanwhile, we cut to the waifu. She was sneaking towards the girl's heart, using her powers to get inside. When she finally made it, she was met with a heartbreaking sight. The little girl sat there, terrified and completely alone. The waifu tried to use her powers to heal her, but nothing worked. Then, things got worse. Rats and cockroaches started crawling all over the poor kid. She screamed, trying to shake them off, and just when she thought she was free, an eerie coffin appeared. The girl lost it, screaming for her brother or mother to save her. The waifu, unable to stand seeing this anymore, used her powers to calm her down, and thankfully, it worked. Back to our boy Feng. He successfully trapped the girl's other personality inside an unbreakable cube. A few seconds later, Heqing showed up and told him he needed to see what was really going on with the kid. He placed a finger on Feng's forehead and transferred all the girl's memories into his mind. Feng couldn't handle what he saw, it was too much. He immediately said they had to go back and figure out how to help her. Meanwhile, waifu was anxiously waiting, worried sick about her daughter. Then, out of nowhere, she heard Feng and Heqing behind her. She spun around and instantly asked how it went. The waifu, being a mother herself, told her she needed to see for herself what her daughter had been through. Without hesitation, waifu agreed. Heqing transferred the memories into her mind, and within seconds, she broke down in tears. Seeing everything her little girl had gone through was unbearable. Sobbing, she begged for her daughter's forgiveness. Feng turned to Heqing and asked if she could cure her. Heqing sighed and said it wouldn't be easy. Waifu, hearing that, immediately said she'd give up her own life if it meant saving her daughter. Heqing gently told her that wouldn't be necessary. She understood her pain because she had felt the same fear with her own daughter, Liang. Right now, all the little girl needed was the warmth and love of her parents to break free from the cage of pain around her heart. She held out her hand and told them to place theirs on top. Without hesitation, both parents did as she asked. In an instant, Heqing transported them into their daughter's subconscious. Inside, they saw their little girl sobbing, screaming that she was scared. Waifu, panicked, asked what they needed to do. Heqing told her the only thing their daughter needed right now was comforting words. The parents immediately understood. Heqing placed a hand on the girl's forehead and used her powers to send both parents directly into their daughter's mind. Cut to the girl, she finally woke up. But when she looked around, she realized she wasn't back home. She was floating in space. Beside her, an enormous, glowing sun radiated warmth. Curious, she moved closer and suddenly found herself flooded with memories. Her father's memories. She saw how he had once been filled with love and worry for his family. Then, suddenly, a devastating scene unfolded before her. Her father returned home to find his parents and little sister dead, lost to war. That was the moment he lost his mind. Fueled by rage, he charged at the ones responsible, cutting through hundreds of soldiers until he finally stood face to face with the person who had destroyed his family. Feng was furious and straight up yelled at the guy, asking why he wiped out hundreds of innocent people. The guy, who was an absolute garbage human, just smirked and said he does whatever he wants. Fen was shocked by those words, and his anger boiled over. Consumed by pure rage, he charged at the guy with a massive attack, but after a while, we see Fen just got absolutely wrecked. The guy looked down at him and laughed, calling him an insect for even thinking he could challenge him. He was about to finish Fen off for good, but right at that moment, Fen thought about his precious family. He refused to give up and, with one last burst of strength, landed a solid punch right to the guy's throat. The guy instantly knew he was done for, but with his last bit of energy, he decided he wasn't going down alone. Fen, completely drained, couldn't dodge the final attack. But just when it looked like it was over, a powerful blast shot down from the sky, taking out the guy instead. The one responsible? A legendary master. He looked at Fen and told him, "How are you about to die here? You're going to be the heir to my swordsmanship?" Then he told Fen that if he really wanted to create the kind of world he believed in, the only way was to become the strongest person on the planet. But Fen, still in pain from losing his family, screamed back at him, saying that a pathetic guy like him would never become immortal, and he would 100% get revenge for his family. Without wasting a second, he ran off. Some time later, we see Fen wandering the streets like a lost soul, looking like a total mess. It was raining, and he was so exhausted that he just collapsed. Lucky for him, a gorgeous woman named Tingu happened to pass by. She saw him lying on the ground and, being the kind soul she was, told her men to put him in the car. Fast forward a bit, and Fen wakes up, thanks her for helping him, and, boom, she instantly blushes. Some time later, Fen starts working as a bodyguard for her family. Everything's going fine until the head of the family passes away. That's when Tingu steps up and announces that she's going to take over the family business. Fen was honestly impressed. Despite everything she had lost, she stood strong and never wavered. Meanwhile, from a distance, we see her daughter watching, remembering all the moments they had together. Back to the present, Tingu told Fen that he had it all wrong. She stayed strong because of him. She explained that on the day of her father's funeral, the other family leaders tried to take control. Since her father never had a son to inherit the business, they weren't about to let her take charge. They straight up told her to hand over power. But Fen, being the absolute alpha that he was, slammed his hand into the ground so hard it cracked, warning them to show some respect to the young lady. The leaders, obviously furious, weren't about to let some outsider threaten them. Tingu knew in that moment that she had to be brave, people believed in her, and she wasn't about to let them down. So, with all the confidence in the world, she stood tall and declared that from that day forward, she would be the new head of the Yi family. She told Fen that it was thanks to him that she didn't let them walk all over her that day, especially knowing she had kids to protect. From that moment on, she worked non-stop to make her family the most powerful in the nation. And when she finally made it happen, she was beyond happy. She wanted to thank Fen in person. But when she went to his room, all she found was a letter on the table. In it, Fen thanked her for giving him hope again and told her to never give up. She was devastated. She had wanted to tell him about their kids. comrades. Cut to an intense battle scene. One of Fen's comrades, barely holding on, used his last breath to tell Fen to build the world they had dreamed of, a world where his wife and daughter could live happily. Through countless battles, Fen met more and more amazing women, each of them fighting fiercely to survive in this chaotic world. Back to the present, we see Fen's daughter reflecting on everything her parents had been through. She realized that she, too, needed to face her problems head-on. And at that moment, she looked up and saw her parents watching her from afar, smiling. Without hesitation, she ran into their arms, and they gave her the warmest, most emotional hug ever. From a distance, a voice called out, congratulating her for waking up. It was her other personality. Overjoyed, she ran to hug him, but he immediately backed away. Sad, he told her that now that she was awake, he no longer needed to exist. But Feng, being the incredible guy he was, told him not to say that. It didn't matter where he came from, he had existed, and that mattered. He thanked him for helping his daughter through her toughest times and pulled him into a tight, heartfelt hug, telling him he was incredibly proud to be his son, Ling Yufeng. At that moment, the mask finally shattered, revealing his true face, tears streaming down as he took in those kind words. Feng told him to drop the pride and go to his family. Ling Yufeng hesitated for a second but then ran into his mother's and sister's arms, where they all shared an emotional, tear-filled hug, making peace with everything that had happened. After a while, they say goodbye to Heqing, and we see that Link, Feng's daughter, is doing fine. Then, out of nowhere, the protagonist's buddy shows up. Feng is shook and asks why, but before he can answer, the dude starts greeting Feng's family. Feng, still confused, straight up asks how he even knew which one was his daughter. The guy is like, bro, it is not rocket science. I just did the math based on how long you have been with your family and her age. Then, real quick, he whispers in Feng's ear that the Prime Minister is absolutely losing his mind because Feng has been slacking on his duties as king. Feng immediately realizes he has got to go, so he says goodbye to his daughter and Tin Jock. Fast forward, Feng gets there, and his buddy totally sells him out. The Prime Minister is mad beyond belief, and the second he finds out Feng is back, he lets out this massive yell. Turns out, he has been trying to track Feng down for a while now, and a certain Yi family finally managed to locate him. But plot twist, this Prime Minister is actually a woman. Our boy Feng is straight up terrified because she has got a nasty temper. She does not waste any time and tells him that, thanks to his little runaway wedding stunt, there is a massive pile of work just sitting there, and guess what? She wants it all done today. Feng, being the absolute legend he is, just busts out his shadow clone technique, and in a few minutes, boom, all the work is done. Everyone is straight up speechless. Dude finishes everything like it is nothing. Then, like a true boss, Feng apologizes to Todd for being MIA and thanks him for keeping things running while he was gone. After that, they all sit down to discuss some things to help the kingdom grow and prosper. Now it is nighttime. Feng makes a comment about how it feels like they have been fighting for 10 years, but finally, they got what they wanted. He thanks Kim for having his back through everything. Yushu, the waifu, tells him she did not do it for him, she did it for the fallen comrades. Feng says he gets it, but he still appreciates her being there. Then, out of nowhere, he brings up this rumor that she has a super talented son and jokingly wonders who would even dare try to date her since she is so intense all the time. She does not take that well. She just looks at him and goes, "What would you do if I told you that you are the father?" Feng nearly jumps out of his skin. He is completely freaking out and asks if she is being serious. Yushu smirks and tells him, "Nah, I am just messing with you." Feng, realizing he walked right into that one, apologizes for the comment. She tells him to quit messing around and get back to work. He knows he really screwed up, so he swears he will not do it again. She just laughs a little and says, "Alright, you are good to go. No more work for you today." Feng starts to leave but then stops and asks her to wait. She is like, "What now?" Feng, knowing she is a great mom, asks for some parenting advice, for a friend, of course. Yushu says it would be better if this friend just talked to her directly. Feng insists that his friend is super shy, so she agrees to help and tells him to sit down so she can explain. Feng thanks her and starts telling her the whole story. Meanwhile, we cut to a huge crowd heading toward the Taoist zone because the martial arts tournament is about to go down. And guess who is there? Feng, but in full stealth mode. Meanwhile, an old man steps up and tells all the disciples that the tournament is about to begin. He wishes them good luck, and they all thank him for his words. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the leader of the Taoist sect shows up. It's none other than Qian Fanchue. She scans the crowd, carefully eyeing everyone, but her attention locks onto one person, her son, Qian Feng. She quickly tells all the disciples that maintaining peace isn't easy, but as monks, they must always uphold their divine state. Right after that, the entire sect shouts in unison, announcing the start of the martial arts tournament. A master steps forward and starts explaining the rules. First, everyone has to pick a slip of paper to determine their opponent, and all matches will be single elimination. Then, the 8 compers with the highest points will be chosen as the official delegates. Qian Feng picks his slip, and it turns out his first match is against contestant number 35. Now, back to the waifu. She looks super stressed about something. Out of nowhere, someone asks her where her son is. Of course, it's Feng. She jumps up in surprise, and when she realizes it's him, she blurts out, all shocked. She quickly tries to play it off like nothing's wrong, but she's clearly embarrassed. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" Our protagonist, like any good dad, tells her he wanted to surprise his son. The waifu, touched by his words, smiles and tells him their kid is at field 16. Feng turns to look and notices that a fight is about to begin. Then, out of nowhere, this huge, super buff dude steps into the ring. Feng is just standing there, stunned, like, wait, why is my son so big? Qian Fanxue, who was casually sipping tea, hears that and immediately chokes. She ends up spilling tea all over the place. The masters around her rush in, all worried, asking if she's okay. She, now completely embarrassed, quickly waves them off, like, yeah, I'm fine. Then she turns to Feng and, half annoyed, half flustered, tells him, are you dumb? That's not our son. Feng, still a little confused, apologizes. Sorry, it's just that every kid I see now, I think they might be mine. Finally, Qian Fanxue spots their son in the ring. There he is. That's the one fighting. Feng watches closely as the match begins. The crowd starts murmuring, and some random guys in the audience go, man, that chubby dude is so unlucky. Qian Feng hears that and refuses to be underestimated. He immediately activates one of his strongest techniques, but it does absolutely nothing. With a single punch, Qian Feng knocks his opponent out cold. Feng is left standing there, shocked at how strong his son is. Qian Fanxue, though, looks super worried. She tells Feng to really pay attention to everything, because she has a bad feeling about what's coming. After a few rounds, we see that Qian Feng is starting to look exhausted. Feng, now concerned, wonders what's going on. Qian Fanxue, still anxious, watches as their son gets completely knocked out in a single blow. That night, Qian Feng is furious about his loss. He throws himself into training like a madman. Meanwhile, Qian Fanxue and Feng watch him from a distance. Feng activates his ancestral eyes and notices something weird. Qian Feng's meridians are way thicker than normal. Qian Fanxue, her worry deepening, tells Feng that this is exactly why she was concerned. Because his meridians are thicker, the energy he releases is way stronger, but he also burns through his stamina way too fast. That's why he gets tired so quickly. Feng, now fully invested, asks her how serious the situation is. Their eyes meet for a second, and for some reason, they both get flustered. Qian Fanxue looks away and says that their son is an incredibly responsible and talented disciple, but he doesn't see her as his mother. Everyone calls him a genius to his face, but behind his back, they see him as the shame of the sovereign. But despite all that, he never shows anger. Instead, he just keeps training until he's completely drained. With tears in her eyes, Qian Fanxue tells Feng, when he was little, he'd always come running to me whenever he was scared, worried, or just wanted to have fun. But now, he barely even speaks to me. Even if he yelled at me, cried, or got mad, at least that would be something. But he just acts like I don't exist. Through her tears, she whispers, being a leader is easy. Being a good mother? That's the hardest thing I've ever done. Feng, without hesitation, tells her, don't worry, leave this to me. Qian Fanxue, wiping her tears, looks at him. Wait, do you actually have a solution? Feng smirks. Give me a sec. I need to have a little man-to-man talk first. Then, before Qian Fanxue can react, he casts a rejuvenation spell, turning himself into a guy Qian Feng's age. And don't come out, no matter what, he tells her before disappearing. Meanwhile, Qian Feng is still going hard at training when he suddenly senses someone approaching. He turns around, ready to fight, and sees Little Fen. The moment Qian Feng senses him, he immediately asks, who are you? What do you want? Fen, totally unfazed, just smiles. I'm a warrior looking to challenge the strongest disciples of the Zeta sect. Without hesitation, Qian Feng says, if that's the case, you're gonna have to fight me first. Fen wastes no time. He teleports behind Qian Feng in an instant. Don't even bother, he says. I already know you're too weak. All you're gonna do is lose your life. But even with that warning, Qian Feng doesn't even flinch. He's not backing down from a fight. And just like that, both warriors go all in, throwing everything they've got at each other. The first to land a hit is the sun, and Fen is straight up shocked because that punch is no joke. It's powerful. But instead of getting mad, he just starts laughing and tells him he's strong, sure, but his meridians are messed up, so it's only a matter of time before he gets wrecked. With a cocky grin, he tells him his parents really did him dirty, giving him such a pathetic body. The kid, obviously not about to let that slide, gets dead serious and yells that even if he's weak, he's never backing down. He's gonna fight with everything he's got. 1 minute later, Fen's got his son by the neck, holding him over the edge of a cliff. He tells him to beg for his guidance, or he's getting dropped. Qian Fanxue, watching the whole thing go down, yells at Fen, asking if he's lost his mind. That's your son. Fen tells her to chill, it's all part of the plan. Then he lets the kid go. And just like that, Qian Feng is falling. But before he hits the bottom, he closes his eyes and, in his final moment, apologizes to the heavens for never making his mother proud. Waifu, who obviously heard everything, couldn't take it anymore and rushed in to help. Our main guy, who noticed this, immediately used his ancient powers to stop time. He pulled it off, ran straight to the anomaly, removed the effect from Kink, and picked her up in his arms. The waifu, who was beyond pissed, yelled at him to put her down because her son was in danger. Feng calmly told her to chill out first and, for the love of everything, to take her hands off his mouth. Realizing what she was doing, she apologized, knowing full well he had just used the legendary ability to stop time. She quickly dropped her hands and asked what he was planning. A few minutes later, once they both calmed down, Feng asked Engel to go with her. As they made their way down the cliff, Feng suddenly called upon his parents' power and blasted a massive hole into the mountain. Inside, the waifu was left floating midair, completely in awe of the beautiful training space he had just created. Curious, she asked what he was planning to do. The protagonist told her he was going to help their son, which was why he made this place. He had a special training method that could heal him. The waifu was amazed and deeply grateful for everything he was doing for their child. Fell reassured her not to worry because, as the father, he would always protect him. Now a little more at ease, said he would stay to watch over the baby. Meanwhile, back in real time, our protagonist resumed the flow of time, and Qian Feng was already bracing for his tragic fate. But just as he was about to go down, he suddenly got teleported somewhere else. Confused, he started looking around, trying to figure out where he was, when he heard a deep voice commenting on how disappointing it was to see the disciples of the Zatada Baptista being so weak. Shocked, Qian Feng quickly turned around and was stunned to see an old man standing there. But little did he know, that old man was actually our protagonist, who had transformed into a grandpa as part of his plan. Qian Feng greeted the old man and asked who he was, but also told him to show some respect to Sasuzita, since she was one of the best warriors in the world. Even if he was considered a loser, he was still proud to defend his home. Hearing this, his mother, who was secretly listening, felt really happy. Then suddenly, Fane let out a loud shout that sent the boy flying. Laughing, he told him to relax, it was just a joke. He pointed out that Qian Feng's body was a lot like his own and had everything needed to become a powerful cultivator. The problem, though, was that his teachers were a bunch of slackers who had failed to make him a true warrior. Qian Feng, who deeply respected his teachers, asked him to be more respectful, saying that both his father and mother were incredible heroes who had brought peace to the world. Feng, hearing that, knew his son didn't hate him, but he still wasn't convinced. So, he turned to the waifu and asked her to lend him their clan's emblem to prove his point. She agreed, and our protagonist revealed the sacred emblem of their sect. Qian Feng instantly recognized it and immediately dropped to his knees to show his respect to the great elder. Fen, seeing this, knew the plan was still on track and asked Qian Feng to tell him more about his parents and the outside world. Just as Qian Feng was about to talk about his father, he suddenly heard a voice that sounded exactly like his mother's. He got all excited, thinking she was there. But the protagonist quickly told him there was no one else around except for the two of them. Qian Feng, trusting his elder, apologized for the interruption. Feng turned to the waifu and asked what she thought she was doing, warning her that she was about to make their son suspect something. With no other choice, he trapped her in a soundproof barrier so she couldn't interfere. Obviously, she got mad and demanded to be let out, but Feng told her that if she kept it up, she would ruin everything. Realizing she was acting like a child, the waifu stayed quiet. Now that things were calm again, Qian Feng continued, saying that his father was a great hero and the person his mother loved the most. Hearing that, his mother got super embarrassed. The protagonist, too, felt awkward, since their son was unknowingly talking about him. Qian Feng kept telling the story, explaining that his mother once told him about the first time she met his father. She had been training when, out of nowhere, his dad, completely drunk, ran straight into her. She quickly realized he was being chased by a group of ninjas who were planning to take him out. So, since she was super chill, she ended up helping him out, took down those guys, and then sobered him up. Over time, they fell in love, and, well, that's how he was born. But our main guy couldn't believe what he was hearing because Qian had completely twisted the real story. She was actually the one who took advantage of him. That was not what he was expecting. Feng yelled that, on the bright side, at least his kid thought highly of him. His son kept going, saying that when the Great War was about to happen, his dad sacrificed himself to protect his mom and ended up dying. And with his last words, he said the only thing he wanted was for his son to grow up to be a brave warrior. But now, his son was feeling frustrated because, with his condition, he thought he would never be able to. He begged the old man not to give him false hope. Ian heard all of this and felt awful for what his son had been going through. But our main guy was not about to let his son just sit there feeling sorry for himself. He straight up yelled, asking if he was an idiot or what. He told him he had an amazing body for cultivation and that there was actually a way to cure him. And once he was cured, he could become a powerful warrior. But the only thing he had to do was accept him as his master, and he would teach him everything he knew. Qian Feng didn't even hesitate before saying no, because he couldn't accept a master that wasn't from his own sect. Feng wasn't surprised but decided to take a more realistic approach. He told him not to worry and that, since he liked him, he would teach him all his techniques and knowledge anyway. No disciple contract needed. The kid immediately got excited and thanked him. Our main guy told him he could cure him, but there was a catch. His life would be in serious danger during the process. He asked him again if he was really willing to take that risk. The mom jumped in, saying he was crazy and that she couldn't let her son be put in danger. But Feng told her not to worry, she needed to understand that this was the life of a martial artist. They all had to face big risks, just like they did back in their day. She knew he was right, so she didn't argue any further. Meanwhile, the son, with zero hesitation, accepted the challenge, knowing this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Feng understood and immediately started the treatment. He explained that the first step was to close off his meridians as tightly as possible so no energy would escape. The kid was clearly talented because he got the hang of it right away, but it was way harder than he thought, and his body started going through some serious pain. The mom, watching all this go down, wanted to step in and help, but Feng stopped her, telling her that if she interfered, her son could end up seriously hurt. Being a mother, couldn't stand watching her child suffer, so instead of staying there, she left the area. trusting that he would pull through, especially since his dad was right there guiding him. Days went by, and eventually, our main guy told him he had done an amazing job because he had completely purified his body and was now full of fresh ki. How did he manage that? Well, he had completed the first step. But suddenly, Qian Feng started feeling this overwhelming pain spread through every inch of his body. Feng knew exactly what was happening. The second phase of the test had begun. This part was about enduring all the chaotic thoughts that would flood his mind. The only way to get through it was to have an insanely strong will. If he succeeded, he would have the potential to become a top-tier martial artist in the future. Meanwhile, Qian Feng was remembering the time an old man once told him he didn't have the foundation to be a martial artist. But even though all his classmates made fun of him, he never gave up. He'd stay up late reading, trying to find a cure for his problem, and he trained like crazy every single day to overcome it. One day, he realized that if he focused all his energy into a single punch, he could do some serious damage. Hyped by this discovery, he ran to tell his mom. While he was explaining everything, his mom just smiled and told him there was no rush. Sure, his method could take down a few fighters, but it would burn him out way too fast. If that happened in a real fight, he'd be in serious trouble. She reassured him that she'd figure something out. Qian Feng felt frustrated. He had worked so hard, but his mom was still holding him back from becoming a true martial artist, like his father. Day after day, he fought with his classmates, and while he managed to win a few battles, he always got exhausted way too quickly. He kept training, pushing himself to his limits, but the results were the same. Now, back in the present, he's battling his own chaotic thoughts. Our main guy yells at him, telling him not to give up and to think of something happy. That's when Qian Feng remembers being a kid, sitting under a starry sky with his mom. She told him that his father was watching over him from above and would always be protecting him. Little Qian Feng, all bright-eyed and hopeful, promised her that one day he'd be strong enough to protect her and make them both proud. At that moment, everything clicks. He finally understands why he wants to be strong. It's not just for himself. It's to protect his mom and the people he loves. And just like that, he completes the second trial. Not only does it cure his strange illness, but it also strengthens his body and boosts his cultivation level. He can't believe it. Immediately, he turns to the old man and thanks him for everything. Feng waves him off, saying he's just happy to have a successor. But as they talk, Feng suddenly looks really sick. Qian Feng, now worried, asks him what's wrong. Feng brushes it off, lying that his time is almost up, but it's fine, because he got to meet such an amazing kid. Qian Feng, filled with gratitude, apologizes for not recognizing him as his master sooner. Then, he asks if Feng would accept him as his father instead. Feng is shocked, but after a moment, he smiles and agrees. He asks for just one thing, a hug. Of course, Qian Feng doesn't hesitate, and they embrace. Feng, knowing that his job is done, begins to fade away. But before he completely disappears, he tells Qian Feng, "My son, go see the world for me." As he vanishes, Qian Feng lets out some manly tears for the father he never knew he needed. Moments later, he's forcibly teleported out of the cave. As the entrance seals shut, he swears he'll never forget Feng's kindness. Immediately, Qian Feng climbs up a cliff to get to safety, but as soon as he does, he runs into the same guy he fought before. And this dude? He's already trying to pick another fight. Turns out, Feng just wanted to test how strong Qian Feng had gotten. The two warriors go at it in an intense battle, throwing punches and dodging attacks at lightning speed. Slowly, Qian Feng starts overpowering his opponent. Feng finally yells out, saying they should call it a draw, but he promises to return one day. After the fight, Qian Feng finally feels it. He's strong now, truly strong, and he swears he'll use his power to protect the people he cares about. Cut to another scene. Our waifu is chilling in her sect, waiting for news about her son. Suddenly, our boy Qian Feng shows up, telling her to relax because the treatment worked. Even though she hears him, she still looks a little anxious, but then she blushes and thanks him. Feng, not used to seeing her like this, teases her, saying she looks kinda weird. Immediately, the waifu, who is a total tsundere, yells at him to just take the compliment because it was already embarrassing enough for her to say it. Qian Feng smirks, telling her he wasn't making fun of her, just that she was acting kinda manly. She freezes, face burning with embarrassment. "Are you saying I look like a guy?" Feng quickly backtracks, explaining that he didn't mean it like that. He just meant that when she fights, she goes all out, taking down enemies like a true warrior. He respects that about her, but seeing her suddenly act so feminine caught him off guard. Waifu, feeling flattered but also super annoyed, grabs a dagger and yells, "Are you stupid or what? I'm a lady." Feng, realizing he's an absolute idiot when it comes to women, awkwardly apologizes. She sighs, calms down, and takes a seat, also apologizing. He doesn't get why she's suddenly acting like this. She tells him not to worry, that the real idiot was him for provoking her. But then, face still red, she admits that's not what's actually bothering her. Feng, curious, asks what's up. She hesitates, then asks if he's mad at her for not telling him about his son. Being the absolute legend he is, just smiles and tells her it's fine. She's surprised. "You really don't care that I kept this from you for so long?" Feng tells her that, of course, it's important to him, but he understands why she did it. If he were in her shoes, he probably would have done the same thing. She laughs softly, saying he always acts the same way. Feng, now curious, asks, "Oh yeah? And how exactly do I act?" She smirks and tells him he's an idiot with no awareness, but he's got guts. At the end of the day, though, he's a good man. Suddenly, the room goes silent. The two of them just stare at each other. The tension? Through the roof. Feng starts panicking internally. He knows he should say something because, damn, this This silence is getting awkward. Right before he speaks, though, his mom saves him by asking about her son. She tells him he's doing fine. She recently sent him on a mission in the mountains to train. But she also heard that a bunch of disciples from other sects went too, including the daughter of Shinhan from the demon clan. And apparently, the second she arrived, she caused absolute chaos. Qian Feng's eyes widen. No way. That means both of his sons are there. Immediately, he tells the waifu that he needs to leave right now. She hesitates, looking like she wants to say something important. But before she can, she gets nervous, panics, and just yells at him to go already. A little later, we see that Feng had no idea about Castle's whole situation. His daughter is crazy smart and sharp, while his son is strong but, well, kind of dumb and super straightforward. He had to make sure they never crossed paths, but since he could not convince waifu to call his son back, decided to take matters into his own hands and went straight to Yihuan to get his daughter to return instead. The moment he arrived, he let out a loud yell so she would know he was there. Yihuan, who was in the middle of a nice, relaxing bath, jumped out as fast as she could. She smirked and teased, "You are tempting me, you are tempting me, should we just do it?" Feng was stunned by how casually she pulled this, and he could not take it. He scolded her, "Why did you not at least throw on some clothes first?" Yihuan rolled her eyes and shot back, "Well, that is on you. You called for me, so I came as fast as I could." Our protagonist, who is honestly a whole mess, grabbed her hand and dragged her straight to the castle so she could get dressed and they could talk properly. Once inside, he finally got a good look at her, and wow, he was completely speechless. Absolute masterpiece. Yihuan, being Yihuan, started teasing him again. "So, what do you need from me?" Feng took a deep breath and said, "It is about my daughter." Yihuan, not even looking worried, asked, "What happened now?" Feng sighed. Ling Long showed up at a village and immediately caused complete chaos. Yihuan just nodded. "Yeah, that makes sense. I was wondering why I had not heard from her in a few days." Feng narrowed his eyes. "Does it not bother you? The guards from that village are out to catch her. Who knows what horrible things they might do?" Yihuan smirked. "Are you worried about our daughter, or about the beautiful Min Jing?" Feng immediately shut that down. "Obviously, my daughter. But I heard they sent a disciple from the autistic sect after her." Yihuan scoffed. "Please, no fool is capturing my daughter. She is way too clever for that." "Who did they send?" Feng groaned. "Your son." Yihuan straight up started laughing uncontrollably. Feng, completely exasperated, said, "It is not funny. If they fight, it is going to be a huge problem. You know he does not even have a proper cultivation base, right? There is no way he is going to catch her." He went on about why he was so worried, and Yihuan finally got it. She nodded and told him, okay, I see your point. Honestly, good job, you are actually acting like a real dad." Feng rolled his eyes. "This is serious. She could get hurt." Out of nowhere, Yihuan got up from the bed, straddled him, and smirked. "I trust Linnell. She is way too smart for her age. But instead of only worrying about your daughter, maybe worry about your son too. He could get hurt, you know?" Feng completely panicked. "Can you please get off of me?" Yihuan ignored him completely. Feng, absolutely dying of embarrassment, used his powers to teleport her back to the bed. She pouted. "Wow, rude. You really have no idea how to read a woman's heart, do you?" Feng groaned. "Please just come with me to stop them before things get out of hand." Yihuan, still salty about being rejected, crossed her arms. "Nope," Feng sighed. Since he was clearly the mature one in this relationship, he used his ancient powers to grab her and take off at full speed toward the city where their kids were. As they got closer, he told her, "By the way, the Celestial Sword family has been a powerhouse for over 400 years. They are extremely secretive, so we need to be careful." Right before they landed, he suddenly noticed her clothes were burnt. "Wait, what happened to your outfit?" Yihuan, fuming, yelled, "You flew too fast, and now my clothes are ruined. You owe me a new outfit." Feng, knowing this was 100% his fault, sighed. "Fine, I will get you one." So off they went shopping. After a while, Yihuan stepped out of the dressing room, looking slightly nervous. "How do I look?" Feng, completely entranced, could not stop staring. But instead of admitting it, he muttered, "This is exactly why demonic women always steal men's hearts." Yihuan smirked. "That is not true. I still have not stolen yours, have I?" Feng, totally thrown off, stammered, "We should probably go find our kids." Yihuan smirked again. "Not yet. This dress does not fit right. It is a little too tight, so I need to find another one." Feng, realizing he was going to fall for her if he stuck around any longer, blurted, "If we leave now, I will make you a custom dress myself." Yihuan immediately lit up. "Deal." Fast forward to them reaching the place where his daughter was supposed to be. A woman in charge of the area told them, "So, here is the thing. A few days ago, both the young lady and the disciple from the autistic sect chasing her disappeared without a trace. The guards we sent to investigate also vanished. I am so sorry for my incompetence." Yihuan nodded. "It is fine. You can go now." Feng sighed. "Whoever did this is strong. They got both of our kids just like that." He turned to Yihuan. "Why are you not freaking out?" Yihuan shrugged. Ling Long is not someone who would just get captured. She probably let it happen on purpose. She is definitely up to something. Plus, she is with the Divine Venerable, so finding her will not be a problem. Feng, who somehow always forgot how overpowered he was, tapped into his insane abilities and instantly tracked their kids. He grabbed Yihuan's hand, and they teleported straight there. The moment they arrived, Yihuan looked around and said, "Yeah, this family is not as noble as they pretend to be. They have a whole secret prison hidden down here, and our precious little ones are locked up." Meanwhile, inside the prison, Qian Feng was absolutely livid. "They tied me up. Silong sighed. So, turns out that whole village thing was a setup. My bad. Qianfeng stared at him. Dude, Silong groaned. I get it, my bad. But now, how do we get out of here? Linglong smirked. Well, are you willing to work with me? Qianfeng, defeated, sighed. Fine, but how do we break these chains? Linglong grinned. Just watch. Up above, Feng was watching the scene like a ghost and could not believe his eyes. Wait, they are not fighting? My son is actually working with that little demon? Yi Huan, completely unfazed, said, yeah, my daughter might not have the best cultivation, but she is a master at manipulating people. No surprise there. Wonder who she got it from. Feng just sighed. We are in for a long night. So back to the kids. Linglong pulls a tiny whistle out of her mouth and starts blowing on it. Out of nowhere, a bunch of little bugs come crawling out and snap through the chains like it's nothing, and just like that, she's free. Qianfeng is straight up amazed at how skilled she is. But then Linglong catches him staring, and just like her mom, she starts messing with him. Like what you see, she teases. Qianfeng, who is as shy as fewing, immediately denies it. I did not see anything, he stammers. Linglong just grins. Weird, you look like you liked it. But hey, everyone likes this kind of stuff. Qianfeng, now super embarrassed, apologizes. Linglong just laughs at him. Even if you did see something, nothing bad is gonna happen. So whatever. Meanwhile, Ben is watching all this from a distance, totally impressed. His little daughter is running circles around his son. He turns to Waifu and asks, should we step in and grab them now? Waifu shakes her head. Nope, if we help them now, they'll never learn how to handle these kinds of situations on their own. Then she leans in and whispers an idea she just came up with before they both leave in a hurry. Back with the kids, Qianfeng asks Linglong to free him and promises to help. No rush, she says. Let me check out the situation first. Lightly taps the bars of his cage and immediately realizes they're electrified. Careful, he warns. This is a powerful formation. Even if we use all our strength, there's no way we're breaking out of here. Linglong just smirks. Just watch and learn. She pulls out a small pill, and boom, a massive explosion goes off. A guard hears the noise and rushes over, spotting the huge hole. He immediately turns to Qianfeng. What happened here? Qianfeng yells, I told you guys 100 times, I am not working with that demon girl. She set off a bomb and escaped. But hey, if you let me out now, I will put in a good word for you with the higher-ups. The guard is sweating bullets. If the girl really escaped, he is screwed. Desperate to save his own skin, he starts unlocking Qianfeng's cage. But the moment he does, surprise, Linglong was never gone. It was just a drawing. Before the guard can react, she grabs a rock and smashes it over his head. Told you my plan would work, she says with a grin, then quickly takes off. Qianfeng, watching her run off, yells, hey, what about me? Linglong pauses for a second and tells him, you know, I have heard that this place, the Sword Villa, secretly traps people to experiment on them with medicines and pills. But I always thought it was just a rumor. Qianfeng sighs. Yeah, you are right, I was naive. I really thought a famous sect like the Sword Villa would not do something like this. Feeling a little bad for him, Linglong finally says, alright, I will let you out, but only if you promise to do everything I say. Qianfeng agrees but adds, as long as it is nothing illegal. Linglong just bursts out laughing. What's so funny? He asks. She shrugs. Not your business. And if you keep talking, I am leaving you here. Qianfeng immediately shuts up. Linglong pats his head like he is a puppy. Good boy. Now totally embarrassed, Qianfeng says, can we just go already? She finally frees him, and together, they start looking for a way out. But just as they are about to leave, they hear a voice calling out. Turns out, it is actually their protagonist, who has transformed again. He calls out to Qianfeng, hey, come on, let me out too. Qianfeng is not thrilled about this idea. Linglong, curious, asks, who is this guy? Qianfeng sighs. Just someone I know. Why did they capture you? Yi Huan, who also changed his appearance, explains, we saw something we were not supposed to, so the guards from Sword Villa locked us up. Feng pleads, come on, let us out, we will help you in return. Qianfeng looks at Linglong, what do you think? Linglong narrows her eyes, clearly suspicious. Something feels off about these two. Qianfeng laughs. You know, you two are kinda alike. You both have dumb companions. Then he turns back to her and says, but seriously, if we free them, they will do whatever you say. And do not forget, Sword Villa has some really strong experts. It could get dangerous. The more people we have, the better. Linglong finally agrees but sets a condition. Fine, but all the treasures we find? They are mine. Of course, the guys immediately agree. As they are sneaking through the place, Linglong suddenly stops. Wait here. She rushes off to grab her backpack. Once she has it, she says, okay, now we can go. After a while of walking, she turns to Qianfeng. Go scout the area. Qianfeng does not argue and heads off. Once they are alone, Linglong suddenly blurts out, Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? Feng and Yi Huan freeze. Busted, tries to play dumb. What do you mean? Linglong smirks. Come on, I caught you already. No need to act. Okay, fine. How did you know? Linglong digs through her backpack and pulls something out. The last time I saw you, my insect left its scent on you. When you are close, it glows. Pretty obvious. Then she adds, also, when I entered that cell, the person in there was an old man. Next thing I know, I find you two in the same spot. So, what trick did you use? Yi Huan, who looks exactly like that old man, just shakes her head. Not telling. Linglong frowns. Are you here to take me home or play with me? You came all the way to a dangerous place like this just to have fun? Linglong, of course, gets annoyed, but then steps in. Look, Ling Long has never had a playmate. Since she was little, the only way she has fun is by finding something interesting and chasing after it. Feng sighs. He kind of gets it. She has no kids her age around, no friends, so she is always looking for something to entertain herself. Feeling a little guilty, Feng says, "Alright, I will play with you today." Ling Long lights up. "Okay, but do not take my dumb toy away." She points at Qian Feng, watching all this, is seriously worried for his son. "I do not know if this girl is a blessing or a curse." Then he pleads, "Please, just do not treat him like a toy. Treat him like a friend." Ling Long thinks about it and then nods. "Okay, fine, let's go." Meanwhile, back at Sword Villa, the whole place is on fire. The disciples are scrambling to put it out, but weirdly, 4 of them are just missing. That is because our heroes stole their uniforms to blend in. As they are sneaking through the villa, a random guy stops them. "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" Ling Long quickly thinks on her feet. "We are guarding the accountant." The guy nods. "Oh, okay, he is over there." Then he runs off. Qian Feng, confused, asks, "Why did you say that?" Ling Long smirks. In any organization, the accountant is super important to the boss, and they always know the biggest secrets. That's why it's way easier to just ask him instead of the sect leader himself. So, Yihuan is super impressed and tells him that his daughter is really smart and clever, just like her mom. Obviously, the waifu gets all flustered from the compliment. Cut to the next scene, and they've got the sect's accountant captured. Meanwhile, Feng and Gaigan find out that the Sword Villa has been making a ton of high-quality pills. At the same time, their kids are squeezing info out of the accountant, and once they finally get what they need, they head straight for the secret room. When they get there, they go through a hidden passage and end up in front of this insanely complicated lock. That's when Ben uses his god-tier eyes and realizes the whole thing is a trap. If they make the wrong move, they're done for. He asks Gihan what they should do, and since she completely trusts her daughter, she tells him to leave it to her, she'll figure it out. And yeah, Feng, being the kind of dad who believes in his kid's skills, lets her handle it. Good call, because Linen has a secret weapon, some crazy liquid that can melt any metal. She pours it on the lock, and boom, it works. They all get inside the secret area and find a ton of ancient relics. The kids are freaking out over how cool and rare the stuff is, and Ling Long immediately grabs one like, "This is mine now." But Qian Feng, being the responsible one, tells her she can't just take it because it's evidence of the Sword Villa's crimes. Instead, she helps her pack some of it up. While the kids are busy, the parents are digging deeper into what other shady secrets this place is hiding. That's when she tells Feng that the rumors were true. The Sword Villa has been using people as test subjects for their medicine, and not just recently. They've been doing this for over 200 years. She is absolutely furious. And then, bam, the patriarch shows up. He tells the kids they're pretty impressive for making it this far and that, of course, they would be, since they're the children of the strongest sect leaders in the world. But then he drops a bomb. He says their bodies will be thousands of miles away in a few days. What's his plan? He's gonna make it look like they fought to the death, which will spark a war between the autistic sect and the demonic sect. They look at him like, "Dude, what's the point of making them fight?" And this guy, all smug, says that the so-called divine venerable just wants a world with no authority. But honestly, it's already too late for them. No matter how talented they are, today is their doom. Ling Long cuts him off like, "Are you done with your speech yet?" She pulls out a pill, crushes it, and a powerful sealing ray blasts the guy, freezing him into a solid block of ice. But that's not all, it also traps him in a super strong prison. Qian Feng is stunned and tells her she's incredible, and the waifu, loving the praise, says she'll teach him a few tricks. Feng, watching the whole thing, is happy his kids get along so well. But suddenly, both Feng and Yihuan realize the guy broke free from the spell. They immediately know this is no time for messing around. She knocks the kids out so they won't be in danger, then goes back to her real identity and tells Feng it's time to get serious and end this once and for all. Feng understands and uses his ancient powers to track the guy's location, and the two of them teleport straight to where he is. They end up in a cave, and the moment she arrives, the waifu feels awful. Turns out, she has some painful memories tied to this place, because when she was little, she was also one of their test subjects. And this is where the video ends. If this video gets good support, only then will I bring the next part. So then hurry up, like and subscribe to this video.